Hello and welcome to another
Hello.
of show.
Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
My bad. Please, I didn't realize
but-
I was talking over an intro. Please, go ahead.
No.
My bad.
This is great. Yeah. So my name's Mike. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. As always, I'm joined by my good friend co-host Nick. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
I'm here. I'm alive. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Great.
All the above.
And as you may have already heard, we are joined by yet another super awesome, fun guest. One of my favorite YouTube creators out there, Wendigoon, the Wendigoon himself, everyone's favorite dad on YouTube. That's right, I said it.
I did it. I don't claim that, but yeah.
I said it, Nathan Barnett. I'm looking at you.
Oh man, shots fired.
Are you familiar with Nathan Barnett? Do you know?
I'm not. No, I honestly do not know.
What's
Nathan Barnett deal?
He has a channel called Dad Feels, and it's like I hate calling it an ARG, but I mean I guess it kind of is an ARG. But it's like it's you'd have to look it up. It's pretty popular in the ARG crowd or whatever.
Is it like a horror ARG kind of thing, or
kind of? It's like kind of sci-fi-ish,
like sci-fi, creepy kind of.
Yeah, it's
okay,
weird.
Gotcha.
Really, it's fun. I enjoy it a lot, but I always talk about the character he plays there is called Dad. So like I have a Dad Feels hoodie I wear all the time on the show.
Oh, okay. All right, I catch it now. Yeah. Thank you for informing Grandpa, so I could.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah,
we had a top 5 like movie franchise episode one time, and spoiler alert, Dad Feels is Mike's favorite movie franchise. So if that even makes it weirder, that's what Dad means to Mike. So
okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So I threw the gauntlet down. So Nathan, if you want to come on the channel, you're more than welcome. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It means a lot. We're really excited. I'm most excited for our audience to learn about your channel because you pump out a lot of really cool videos that are super entertaining. And yeah, so the more eyes on your channel, the better, I think. We really enjoy talking with other indie content creators and stuff like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. I talked to you guys about it for a second before we got started, but this is my first podcast or interview or anything like that I've been invited on and then have actually showed up on. So thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, no problem. So our show is live streamed, so that means we have live comments. So if you guys have comments, questions, throw them out there. We'll try to put them up on screen. We can talk about them. So we have talks, among us. We have Doll Boy Wendigoon. That is yes, for sure. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us.
I liked his profile picture. That was cool. It was creepy.
Yes. Before we get started, though, with the interview and learn about Wendigoon's channel here, I just want to remind everyone about our giveaway we have going on. So, okay, bad.
Ooh, right.
Okay. Anyways, if you tuned in, here we go. We have this lovely Moff Gideon Funko Pop t-shirt combo pack here. We're trying really hard to hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. We're real close. So once we hit 100, we're going to give this pack away. The only requirements, you have to be a subscriber to our YouTube channel and you have to be a member of our Discord. Our Discord link is on our YouTube page, so you can just join from there. Here's a preview of the shirt. Nice little Moff Gideon shirt. Anyways,
in action.
Yes.
In the flesh.
So please, if you enjoy what you hear tonight, consider subscribing and joining our Discord and our little community we have going on there. And you could be entered to win this fabulous prize. But anyways, now that we got that out of the way, first off, love your shirt. It's great.
Thank you very much. I love your
and flowers.
Yeah, it's got all of them are so weird. I think this one's ocean views and stuff like that.
Nice.
Someone asked me one time why, for someone who's so self-admittedly afraid of the ocean, why I wear Hawaiians, and the simple answer is it's camouflage. duh. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to think to see me if I look like it. I'm really loving your all shirts a lot right now.
Thanks. So I don't own anything like this. I primarily, like, my wardrobe is like basketball shorts and hoodies. So once you said you would come on, I was like, okay, I have to find a shirt. Like, it has to happen. And I went to Walmart. I went to like Goodwill. I went to, I think, another thrift store that's local to our area. Couldn't find anything. I was like, where does this man get these shirts from?
That's where
Why
you
are
should
they
find
so
that
hard?
stuff. That's where you should find that stuff. There's
I know.
always those kind of things there.
But hey, I have to
Flippin'.
give a shout out to my father-in-law, Trent, Hartville's hero.
Shout out, Trent.
He has like a million of these, and he was kind
Excellent.
enough to let me borrow them. So thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Trent has style. So
That's right. That's right. And then what, Nick? You have crabs on yours?
Yeah, crabs, kind of like little waves and stuff, you know, real beach themed. These are I have like 4 of these. They're like party shirts, flip flops, and shorts kind of weather this weekend.
it is kind of funny because I've sort of noticed that they're kind of making a comeback. I don't know if they were ever in the first place, but it's kind of a style now.
Sure.
I think Dad's kept them alive forever, and then now they're coming back in a certain fashion, in a niche, or we're all just getting old enough that we're practically dads in our own right. And
all right, fair enough. Yeah, right. Thanks. Now it's just sad.
Yeah,
I'm just an old man.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm there with you, man. Mel chimes in. She says, "Yay, Funko!" That's right, Mel. You could win this. It could be yours.
I was at, I don't even remember where I was at. It was a restaurant. Anyway, I was at some restaurant, and I was at the checkout, and there was like 4 guys in front of me who all had Hawaiian shirts on. And of course, I never take these off. I wear these everywhere. So I get up to the end of the line, and some older lady behind the counter, and as she's checking me out, she goes, "I just think it's so sweet that all the boys your age are just so brave to wear these shirts. Like it's a coming out thing." Yeah, so brave. And I'm like,
you boys are so brave. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's weird.
Your age too.
Awesome.
Toss that in there.
Yeah, so someone your age is so brave. I'm like,
wow.
Thank you.
Like you're saying a lot in that sentence that could go a lot of different ways. Like, what are you saying right now?
You know, she never went anywhere with it. It was just like that.
Right.
She's like $10.95, and that's the end of it. So, I still don't know what she meant by that. There, like, I get weird comments about it a lot. I think my favorite, of course, that the lady saying that I'm brave for wearing one, whatever that means. But this one lady told me that it's interesting someone of my stature would wear this. And I'm like, you mean like 6'1"? Like that kind of stature? It's like specifically weird for me. Like Hawaiian shirts are only for short people or something. I don't know.
There's so many like weird, like those comments, like they can go anywhere. Like you can't ask them like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Like you're in line at Walmart. It's not like, no, hold on. I want to hear out on this one.
Pull the microphone out and be like, tell me what you really meant by this.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great idea. I mean, I don't want to like, take any credit for your next Iceberg series, but I feel maybe a Hawaiian shirt Iceberg might be, up there. Could be some good premium content for you.
Someone sent me, it was like actually another creator did it. It was called the Worm Iceberg. The creator actually did a video with Scrabble. He ended up making the same video I had in mind. But the iceberg, it's like different pictures of worms. And the top tier is like worm is animal. Worm is slimy. And then as it go down, it's like worm has invisible legs. Just dumb stuff about worms. So he made the joke was going to be I was going to like speed run it. And just like make up all these weird like 5th dimensional concepts for what it means. But he beat me to it. So
that's awesome.
But I could do that with Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, that'd be great. And you can put like, your tiers could be like the wearer's height. It's or like design of like Hawaiian shirt for 5'4". Anyway,
or like in a
it's quite
certain tier,
brave.
like in a certain tier, like this is where this
quite
height
brave.
enters.
Yeah, this is where someone of your stature wouldn't wear one. Yeah. Whatever that means.
That's awesome. Actually, speaking of like funny videos of yours, that Christmas with the Cranks video is like hysterical, by the way. I tried to explain it to Nick. I don't know if he ended up watching it or not, but I was
didn't
like,
get to
this
that
is
one.
the funniest thing ever.
So to this day, people are still mad about it.
What?
Like so I get which I love that you've seen it, by the way, because that was when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do on YouTube, or like trying to gather an audience, so I wasn't really sure. So like no one watched that video initially, right? I remember after a month it had like maybe 1,000 views. And now like people are going back and watching it, but every day I'll get at least 1 or 2 comments on that video that's like, you obviously represent the American misunderstanding of Marxist concepts. Like, did you read the title?
Oh dear.
Some people just right over.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the swoosh thing. Because like, and I also get like Twitter. I think I tweeted something about it, that people are offended that their ideology wasn't accurately represented in a video where I called Frosty the Snowman Lucifer the blood god, and like, that's about how it goes.
But hey, what are you gonna do? It's 2020, 2021.
Yeah, is what it is.
Alex Edits chimes in. He says, "Hello, Night Vision Father."
Oh, hello, Alex. Thank you very much. Night Vision Father.
That took me 5 seconds to get, and then I put it together.
Yeah. So yeah, you would be surprised at the amount of videos that I've watched. So I have a pretty boring like day job, desk job, do research, lots of spreadsheeting and stuff.
Gotcha.
Right over here. I have like 4 monitors, and one of them, like at least half of the screen, is dedicated to YouTube all day long. So it's like 8 hours of YouTube, which is
nice, both
awesome and kind of sad. But you know, it allows me to find a bunch of fun content. I enjoy YouTube a lot. I've talked about it on the show before, that like it just gives people like you, like us, who, you know, aren't out in Hollywood or like, you know, New York or somewhere, that have fun and creative ideas to get their ideas out there, right? So with that, you know, you find a lot of cool things, channels like yours, channels like, I'm a big fan of like Nexpo. I don't know if you've heard of him. I love Nexpo, things of those sorts. And I think actually I stumbled on your channel. It was either with your Anthill Kids video or your Local 58 video. But
I just watched that one this evening before I've been trying to watch your Sunday like service videos, all the way back. But every time I go to find one to watch, because I was trying to find the first one, I see like a different video. I instead end up watching. And so like today was the Local 58 one, which you Nexpo is in your description for something. I think he sent you something or whatever.
So when I did the Local 58 video, it
was really good for someone who hasn't watched all of it. That helped me a lot, put it all like in my head, because Mike has patience for that stuff. I don't necessarily do. So I'm glad you watched it like 3 times and put that video together for me. That was very helpful.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot. So like I think the reason, I'd have to go back and look at the description, I'm pretty sure the reason I tagged Nexpo is because he also did a series covering it. And at the time when I made that video, I was, how many subs would I have been? I know I wasn't to 10,000 yet. I don't even think I was to like maybe 1,000. I was right around 1,000 subs. So I was like just getting started on the whole YouTube thing. So then I do that Local 58 video, and I'm pretty sure that's why I tagged Nexpo, because he did one. And then that one started picking up traction after. Actually, it didn't really pick up any traction until I released the Gemini Home Entertainment video a couple weeks ago.
That's a good
one.
And
then I linked it, and then people started giving that one traction, and then that. So yeah.
I love analog horror stuff. Local 58 is like one of my
me
favorite
too, man.
series. Also, Gemini Home Entertainment is right up there too. So when you put out a video on that, I was like, oh, this is great. This is perfect. People need to learn about Gemini Home Entertainment.
It's so good. It's like criminally underrated too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard. We have, so last October we did like all of our episodes were Halloween related or themed or whatever. And we had an entire episode on analog horror. Which was really fun because like I'm really into it and Nick knows nothing about it. So it was like trying to explain it to him, which was fun, but also really hard. Like it's really hard to understand, to explain what makes analog horror so like such a good genre of horror, I think. But yeah, like your Local 58 and Gemini videos they did a great job of
thank you so much
laying that out. But yeah, so like what got you into YouTube? Like what was your inspiration, your drive to start creating these videos and throwing them on YouTube and stuff?
So, I mean, there's a bunch of factors that go into it. The main thing is like kind of what you talked about earlier, just YouTube's so cool because like for people who don't live in LA or can just drive out to Hollywood, it's a chance to put yourself out there. Something that I think is real, like I've been super into YouTube for, gosh, like what, 5-6 years now. Just watch, like I don't really watch TV. I'll watch like a show on Netflix every now and then, but YouTube's just like my main source of entertainment, and it has been for years. So I've just watched it for a long time. I got into the creators. Something interesting that I was talking about with a friend the other day that you kind of touched on with talking about like how there's these aren't like celebrities or whatever, is whenever you get caught up in like YouTube drama or like, oh, this person did this to this and this, there's still this thing in the back of my head who's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, there's still a lone creator who like put themselves out there. So even if it is drama, at least it's drama between two real people instead of like a bunch of talking head figures.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So just stuff like that has always made me like the website because, yeah, it has its problems. Every time that I have to deal with another copyright claim, I think about those problems. But at the end of the day, I love the site and I prefer it to something like it's like you said before, the YouTube or like the internet in general. If you wanted to make it, it's like, okay, bye, mom. I'm driving to LA.
Yeah, and like you better hope like the stars align for
exactly.
you. Exactly.
I think one of the wildest stories was John Krasinski, the guy from The Office who later directed like A Quiet Place and all that. He was talking that he drove to, I believe it was New York, because he lived closer to New York and he was looking to get an acting role. And he spent like 2 years just waiting tables, like randomly applying at different places. And then he told the story like right before he went back home, he got The Office, which is a big deal. But I remember hearing that story. I think he talked about it on some late show and sitting there being like, wow, 2 years.
Yeah. It's a long time.
Hoping that something happens. Yeah. And it's like, with YouTube, you don't have to do that. Like, even if it does take a while to get the platform you want, you are still engaging in that platform until you get there. There's not really an entry. So it's always something that I've wanted to do. I often joke, well, it's not really a joke, but it's sort of a joke, that the reason I specifically went the route of like conspiracies, because if you look at like the early stuff on my channel, it's not conspiracies and all that.
Right.
But the conspiracy iceberg is kind of what I guess gave me the platform I'm at now. What actually inspired me to do that is my girlfriend was showing me videos of Shane Dawson, his conspiracy theory video. And so I've always, like the stuff I talk about now about like giants and Agartha and stuff like that, I've always known about that. And I remember sitting there watching the Shane Dawson video and thinking, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And there was a point, I think it was after he got done explaining, like, did you know that corporations want money or something like that? I looked over at my girlfriend and I said, I'm going to make a video about conspiracies and no one may watch it, but it's going to be better than this.
Nice.
So yeah, that was kind of like my motivation as far as content goes. But for YouTube itself, I've just always enjoyed it, and it's just something that I've wanted to, kind of like invest time into, because I really do love making videos. So yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple comments here. We're gonna get
ahead,
out here. So we got Mel. She says, "You made it when people don't hold a grudge against you." That was from like 8 minutes ago, so I kind of forgot the context, but we love Mel. She's a regular.
Okay, cool. Hi,
then we got Reynold Hughes here. Oh, hey, he's back in the normal corner now.
Yeah. So Reynold, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. He's really cool. We like interact on Twitter a lot and stuff. So I actually, while you were doing the show intro, I tweeted a link.
Okay.
So that's probably where some of them are coming. Hi, Reynold.
Well, welcome everyone. Heartsy Protsy. Wendigoon blew up fast. First thing I saw was the JFK video.
The fact that anyone saw that is so
is that
wild.
the whiteboard?
Yeah, it's that whiteboard right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That before we keep going, we got a couple more comments coming in here, but I think that's been my favorite part though about following your journey so far. So I came in probably like early this year, and I think you were making videos like last half of 2020-ish.
Yeah, it would have been I think so. I had the channel, I had it made for a while and didn't do anything with it. I think the point where I said I'm gonna start making YouTube videos was it was October of 2020. So yeah.
So like I came in 3-4 months into your start, I guess, but it was so cool to watch a video and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at 1,000 subs. This is crazy. Like, thank you guys so much. And then like 2 videos later, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at like 10,000 subs. This is crazy. You guys are nuts. Like, what's going on? And then like the last video or the one before, you're like, we're at 400,000 subs. It's absolutely nuts. But like, just, I love like, I don't know, like, I guess for lack of a better word, like your humbleness, like the gratitude, like it's just so sincere. And I don't know, it just makes, at least for me, it like makes me enjoy your channel even more, because you're just like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just making videos. This is crazy. Like, I can't believe people are watching. This is nuts.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It really is. I think a lot of it, I appreciate that you take it as humility, because that means a lot for my character. It's honestly just like shock.
Oh yeah,
most of it, because you got to understand, like, okay, so this isn't a lie. I'm talking to you guys through a webcam. I still record videos with my iPhone. And I use like the Yeti mic that I had from like 4 years ago whenever I wanted to like talk to people on Twitch playing video games or whatever. Like I took what I had and then started like, let's just see how YouTube goes. And that mentality has not changed at all. I'm doing the exact same things, but there are now 400,000 people watching.
Yeah.
And it really whenever I think about that number, I get tripped out. Because like I almost have my head wrapped around 10K, and that blows my mind. And then it's like, just times 40.
It just exponentially just goes crazy. Because like you said, you got your head wrapped around 10K, but then instantly, like it was probably like a month or 2 later, and you're at 400.
Yeah,
well, and that's the crazy thing is like by the time he like was able to conceptualize like 10,000 followers, he probably was at like 200,000 followers. And it's just like just continual mind blowing.
I think so I'm like constantly being mind blown. I think like what's always a slap in the face is whenever someone I've watched for years talks to me. I'm like, that just melts my brain. Like I did a video with Mr. Gigi.
Love that kid.
I love him too. And actually I told him this in the DMs. This is my first time saying it publicly. He's one of the reasons that my girlfriend and I are together. Because whenever we first started talking, he was coming out with the To Catch a Predator series. And she was just a friend at the time, and I'm like, hey, you wanna watch this guy talk about internet pedophile? That was my pull.
Classic.
And it worked. But like I've watched Mr. Gigi for years, right? And then the day that whole thing happened, where we got the same email from I don't know if you've seen the video, but that guy, he DM'd me and was like, "Hey, I got a question." And I just remember I was holding my phone and just staring at it for like minutes. And then like I'm trying to compose myself. And then I think I replied like, "Sup?" Like trying to be a cool guy.
It took you minutes to be like, "What? How do I reply?" 3 letters. Sup.
Yeah. You seen this cool Hawaiian shirt before?
Yeah. What's it to you?
Yeah. I've been trying to get Nick to watch Mr. GG videos. Dude,
I watched
he's a really great creator.
I just recently found that guy, and I don't even know how it happened, but like I'm in like, well, first off, my YouTube recommendations are like so all over the place because I watch so many different weird things. But somehow he wiggled his way in, and I was like, "Oh, what's this? I'll click on this." And then I was like crying, laughing, and I was like, "Where has this guy been my whole life? He's so funny."
And he makes really good stuff, and he's also like talking to him one-on-one. He's a great, genuine dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
His live reads are just hysterical.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like. This is no slight against some of his videos, but sometimes like his ads are my favorite part. They're so funny.
Yeah, he's got it down to a science.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So Alex Edit says he did it. He made it fun. I'm just gonna blow through these because there's a whole bunch. Biosiv, good friend of the show. I've heard the term iceberg a couple of times now. I'm not sure what that means. Well, we got news for you, buddy. You're about to learn today. Wow,
we got news for you.
That was a bad sentence.
Hi again, Reynolds.
Yep, Reynolds. Devin.
I'm also from that Twitter link.
I'm also from that Twitter.
Break them in.
Thank you for joining, Alex. Same.
Yes, join the fold.
Daniel Nutt.
Oh boy,
I've never seen Daniel spelled like that before.
Daniel.
For the E-word video. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be something, all right. I tell you what.
What's this E-word video?
The E-word is Epstein. So, I said on Twitter that if they keep the official story that McAfee killed himself, I'll make the Epstein video, and they're moving forward saying that's what happened. So I said, all right, here we go. So yeah.
The next comment here. Hey, Wendigoons, thoughts on McAfee?
Well,
stay tuned.
It'll come up. Just give a moment.
Deaded.
Alex back at he's deaded.
I think they're just talking about McAfee.
Yes. Glad to know that a big creator I like also films on an iPhone.
Yeah.
So true. I forget what movie it is I watched, but there was some horror movie a couple years ago that was shot on an iPhone.
We talked about that. I completely forget what that was.
I don't remember what it was called, but it was good. It was very tense.
I think it's a big testament to like. I'm not the biggest fan of J.J. Abrams, mostly because of what he's done with like other like movie properties. Not pointing any fingers, but in that whole mystery box speech he gave, which is a meme now. It was during. Are you familiar with that? Have you seen the TED Talk where he went on that whole rant?
Don't think so.
JJ.
Yeah, JJ. It was basically like a TED Talk, and he was talking about how like whenever you make a movie, you have to there's a mystery box, and what makes the movie interesting is like, ooh, what's in the box, and then you talk about the box, but you never show what's in the box, and then at the end you show it's in the, anyway. It's been meme now because people are just like, here's your stupid mystery box. Whenever a movie does something dumb, but he did say one thing in that TED Talk I really liked. He opened it up saying 40 years ago it was write your own story, right? Because everyone's legible, everyone knows how to write. They can get paper, a pen, and write their own story. He said now with the advancements of tech, it's go make your own movie. That it may not be great, may not be the most competent in different regard, but you have the capability to make your own movie if you really want to. And I think about that a lot, and like even from a guy that I'm not the biggest fan of, I think he's 100% right that we have like the ability, like you were saying, a horror movie shot exclusively on an iPhone. It may have had a studio behind it, but you have the potential to do that.
Yeah.
And YouTube's a great platform for it. Like Crypt TV. Have you ever seen those guys?
Mm-mm.
So it's this YouTube channel called Crypt TV that they've got. I don't know where they get their budget or where they get their like props department, but it's like these expert horror movie creators who basically what they'll do is like YouTubers who make these small like 3-minute short films. They're like, hey, you want to come make one for us with like a professional budget and everything? And they basically fund these like small time YouTube directors.
Oh, nice.
And it's some of like the best horror I've seen in years, and just these little 10-minute shorts on their YouTube channel. But stuff like that, I think about that whole JJ thing, like go make your own movie. It's another reason I like YouTube a lot. But yeah. Side tangent.
Mel, she answered my question. The movie's called Unsane.
Okay, gotcha.
Nailed it.
All shout on an iPhone. Thanks, Mel. But yeah, I think what JJ said there, and then something I've referenced before with Kevin Smith talking about just like creating, because the world needs more like creation. Creation is beautiful instead of like what we have now, which is just destruction, chaos, people tearing each other down. But like exactly like what you're doing, what we're trying to do, like just go create the things that like bring you joy, that you're passionate about, and then like maybe somebody will stumble on it and it will bring them joy, and then like you succeeded, right? So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
no,
just create
100%.
stuff. People
exactly.
like
Michael's create spiel. Yeah. It happens every 5 episodes. He lays it out there.
That's funny. My everyone always asks like, what's your like advice for starting and blah 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 and stuff like that. And there is like a time for, oh well, you need to record with one of these or make your content like. But at the end of the day, my biggest advice is like just do the thing, because your first video, no matter how much like foresight you put into it, it's not going to be perfect to you a year down the road. As a matter of fact, I can tell you now, none of your videos are going to be perfect to you, and that's okay, because that's part of it.
Yeah.
I like my biggest fear going into it was like, I'm not going to be good enough, and then eventually one day I was just like, who cares? I'll just do it, and here I am. Actually, the guy who I don't want to say the word agent because it's pretentious. The guy who coordinates and finds me advertisements. That guy. We were talking about like videos. He's like, just like, he was talking about how he legitimately likes my stuff and it means a lot. And he was like, yeah, I've had this script for a video I've wanted to do for like 2 years now, just sitting around. And like, I'm afraid that I won't do this right, or I won't get this right. And like, so I gave him this whole pep talk over the phone. Like, it's going to do zero good if you grow old and die and that script's still on the table.
Yeah.
It's not going to benefit everyone. Yeah. And he's like, okay. And then he like called me the other day. He's like, okay, I filmed it.
Nice.
Well, it's the whole like there's also like that backlog consideration, and like you said with one of your videos, like the Local 58, it's an early one. They're not going to get a lot of traction until the one thing that clicks and gets everyone to your station. Doesn't mean that they're not good. Like, they might blow up down the road once you have like the exposure. So just do the thing.
I will say this, like for one, and different people approach it with different mentalities. My mentality, this isn't a joke, by the way. Whenever I started YouTube, I told myself, if 5 people regularly watch my content, it will be worth it. Because I'm like, amount of time given to like enjoy. I'm like, if 5 people enjoy what I talk about, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
So that was like my mentality going forward. So as soon as it got 5 views, I'm like, I'm good. That was an equal like time cost to benefit or whatever. Yeah. Which again is why I can't process where I'm at now. But because that's a lot more than 5. No, legitimately to this day, I'll post, refresh, it's at 38. I'm like, that's too many. I need to back off a bit. But for me, it was just like putting it out there so that other people can see it. And what you talked about, Nick, with like that backlog, I promise you that if like there's not that immediate gratification for anyone that wants to make videos, it will come eventually to some degree. Like, and again, for me, it was 5 people. For you, it could be 10 or 20. But I guarantee you that if you just keep up, you are going to get that at some point. And then it's like a ton of people, and it's so weird to think of myself as a YouTuber, if that makes sense. Because all the times I like watch YouTubers and come across their channels.
You got the plaque. You're there.
Yeah, that's really intimidating sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. That's a lot more than 5. But like, whenever I like find a new YouTube channel, I'm like, oh, this guy's really cool, and I'll go back and like watch all their old videos. People will comment that on my older videos. They'll be like, yeah, I'm currently binging all of the Wendigoon stuff, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. It's almost like I'm a YouTuber or something. It still doesn't process.
Yeah.
Right.
But like you were
It
talking
shouldn't.
about, Nick,
Don't let it.
it's correct, yeah. But it's like you're talking about, Nick, like that backlog, it's useful to have down the line. It's like I have seen a few people who like out of the gate kill it. And like that guy Scrabble I talked about, actually found him because his first video he ever made was an Iceberg video that was fantastic. So like there lightning strikes twice, a couple of times, but most of the time you're going to stumble, you're going to find your footing, but you'll never get there unless you make those first few stumbles. So
yeah,
exactly.
and keep going, because sometimes I feel like we have really good episodes, so I'm like, oh, we don't have like the exposure that I wish we had for that video because it was really good, or it was so good. But knowing down the road, if you get bigger, then people will find them and they'll dig them up, because people like me, they just instantly scroll to the first videos and see what was going on at the beginning.
Yeah, I have this weird, like OCD thing where I'm like, well, I have to start at the beginning. But yeah, Mr. Coordinator guy, you never know unless you try. Like, that was a big thing when we started the podcast. It had been something I wanted to do for like 2 or 3 years, and then like always made up an excuse like why not to. And then Nick was just like, dude, let's just do it. And I was like, okay,
it's easy. You just plug in some chords here and there, and you just kind of hit some buttons, and it just does itself.
What's the worst that's going to happen? Like, we already have these conversations, so why not like put it out there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody might watch it and maybe find it entertaining. But it's like stuff that we enjoy doing anyways. So like, just do it. Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And create.
I can tell anyone watching right now, just grab your iPhone, get yourself like a $20 mic, hit a few keys, and then people start calling you dad on the internet. It's simple. There's no other steps.
Instant internet dadness. Yes. So I wanted to ask, like, do you write and stuff? Because I've heard you talk about writing in your videos. Like, is that something that like is also like underlying your channel and your creative process? Like, is writing maybe like scripted stuff a plan or a desire of yours, or do you anything in that realm?
So absolutely. The reason I laughed is because I thought the question was going to be, do you write scripts? To which the answer is no. But that's why I didn't mean to laugh at your question. I thought that's where that was going. Because I get that question a lot. It's like, oh, like how long are your scripts? I'm like, I do not write scripts.
Yeah.
I have bullet point notes, and then I just talk into a camera. But yes, writing, I do enjoy that a lot. Actually, that was kind of I guess you all are the first people to actually interview me, so I can give you some background. So I guess that's what you get for being the first one.
Yay!
The exclusive.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the exclusive. One time until someone asks again. But whenever I started Wendigoon, it actually started as an Instagram page. So I started, excuse me. I have always been really into writing, and more like, I guess more importantly, I've always been into stories. Like, movies are I love movies. I love the idea of like cinema and storytelling and how people convey stories and stuff like that. I'm a big, like, I guess, nerd or snob, I guess, when it comes to movies. But anyway, in high school and stuff like that, you can't make movies, but you can write. So I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed writing fiction. I wrote a bunch of stories about like the ocean or like monsters in the woods and things like that. So whenever I'm still a college student, but a little over a year ago, I decided that my whole passion for writing doesn't do any good if I don't do anything about it. So I'm like, I'm going to start an Instagram page, and then on it, I'm just going to post like these 3-paragraph short stories with a picture and music attached. And I'm like, that's just going to be a thing that I do. And I think I got around 7,000 followers on there. And it's really weird that some of those people like transitioned over to YouTube, but all that I would do is I would post, like, for example, what's one of them? Okay, one of them, it was this old painting of a man standing by the ocean in front of a lighthouse, and he's holding a bloodied axe, and then off in the distance you can see a werewolf, right? So I took that image, I threw on the song All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix, and then I wrote this story beneath it about how, like, this is a man protecting his village from the monsters that come at night and stuff like that. I would do one of those like 3 or 4 times a week. And people just started to like and get it. The YouTube channel was actually made as a supplement to the Instagram if anything happened to it, right? Mm. And then sure enough, me uploading copyrighted music every single day for like 2 months on end, Instagram wasn't too fond of, so they deleted that account. And so this is like really weird to think about in hindsight. I had like 6,000 followers on Instagram. It got deleted. And I had told people about the YouTube, I think, which I was able to, like, because of that Instagram following, skip the initial couple hundred. But I think the YouTube had maybe 400 or 500 subs. And I remember after the Instagram get deleted going, this is it. This is rock bottom. And it never gets better. I'm stuck. And just being real, like, depressed about it, which is so funny to think about in hindsight.
Right.
But if it hadn't have been for Instagram getting deleted, I would have just kept doing that. Mm. And then I'm like, all right, I've got like 400 people on YouTube. I can continue to be lame about it, or I could try to make videos. And then I just started, like in October, I just started making YouTube videos. And then here we are. But yeah, so the writing, it's kind of like taking a back burner to like videos as they begin to come out. Because again, I started like less than a year ago, so it's still like I'm kind of frazzled, right? Trying to figure out where I stand on all this. But that's definitely something I enjoy doing and would like to bring back in the future. I have some ideas for it that I don't necessarily want to give away yet, but yeah, it's been an important part, and it will continue to be. So yeah.
So that made me think of a handful of questions to ask you.
Okay.
Before we do that, we have a couple more comments I
don't
want to ignore. So Daniel Nutt, he's back. He says, have you ever wanted to start a conspiracy theory or make up a cryptid?
So before I take that question seriously, I have so many times considered just absolutely coming up with the most off the wall stuff. And this is like a dangerous amount of power that I hold in like the weird 4chan conspiracy realm of the internet. Because, and I think I talked about this in one of the Iceberg videos, it got to the point, I would like, some of these terms on the conspiracy iceberg do not exist outside of some archived 4chan post from 3 years ago. So I was like searching for those early on, and then around tier 4 or 5, all the threads I'd find, like as they're discussing it, someone will go, don't worry, Wendigoon will talk about it next episode.
Oh man.
And it's like, okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
So then like I get the supplemental material that takes a lot longer now. I make the video. If I go back and search those terms, people are like, yeah, well, Wendigoon says it's this. And that becomes the new fact. So
dude, you have unlimited power right now.
Exactly. Sometimes I'll look at those tier 8 ones and I can't find information. It's like 2 a.m. I'm like, I could just make something up and it would be
right.
fast.
I like the ones where you're like, I legit could not find anything, but you're at the point where you're like, well, this is exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because some of them legitimately, like, no information exists, but I know what the guy who made the chart is getting at. Because, like, you go down this rabbit hole of research, you kind of get the ideas that they're getting across. So I'll find some information sometimes and be like, okay, I catch what you're saying. I'm pretty sure I know what to do. But have ever wanted to seriously start one? A few times with like more recent political events, I've thought about connecting some strings on a public platform, and then like rapidly stepped away from it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what harm could come from that?
Yeah, it's not like I'm gonna commit suicide or anything.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Side question to something there you said made me think of it, but how do you know, maybe this is a dumb question, but how do you know the things you can't see on YouTube?
All right. So I've been watching YouTube a long time before, and I've also been in like this whole, I guess, conspiracy realm or like corner of the internet. The things that make people go away, and this is both literally when it comes to people involved, like Epstein and stuff, or like people's channels getting deleted, is when you connect the dots, right? So for example, like whenever I do the McAfee video, I can talk about stuff that's like on the news or public platforms. I can talk about, say, Jeffrey Epstein was a financer, he had children on his island, blah, blah, blah. Where you get in trouble is when you go, and if you look at the records for the island, this congressman funded it for 3 years straight. And then not only that, they had a boat that visit. That's when you start getting in trouble.
Right.
Because it's kind of understood that if someone gets burned like that when it comes to conspiracies, or the fall guy, essentially, you can say whatever you want about him because he's already done for. But when you start bringing in more fall guys, that's when big sites go, no.
Yeah. Okay.
You're out.
Those darn allegations.
Yeah, those daggum hypotheticals.
So that's where it kind of like just be like, make up your own conclusions. Here's all the information.
I fully intend to like in like the McAfee Epstein video to be like, and then no one ever visited ever again. So don't look it up. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Nice. Reynold says, "Just start" is honestly some of the best advice. And it is 100%.
Like I've been there, right? Like I wanted to make videos for 3 years and I didn't start until less than a year ago. Like I know how it feels to just
damn you, Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like it's all Instagram's fault. It's what I'm getting at now. But I know what it's like to just kind of brood over it and not like be sure enough in yourself. But honestly, like it's a lot better 3 years from now to go, well, my first few videos weren't that great, than to go, wow, I should really start that YouTube channel.
Right, exactly. Carlos says pioneers.
Thank you.
Yes. Man, I'm not even gonna. Mr. Lima says, "I hope you're a man." I'm going by your Fallout picture, so can't blame me. Which is your favorite theory besides giants? Which we all know you're a fan of the channel. Big fan of giants here.
I am in fact a big fan of giants. Haha, big fan. Other than like, I guess they're kind of tied into giants, but theories of Hollow Earth and Agartha are also in there, because it's really wild when you get into research how literally every single culture has had some like recollection or like legend around there being tunnels that lead to underground caverns where people can exist or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is the same reason I like giants, just because like every single culture has giants in their history, except for ours, who for some reason in the last like 80 years just quit being mentioned. But that's weird anyway.
Yeah. So you like the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they talked about Hollow Earth, and I'm like, all right, you got me.
All right, you got me. I'm on board.
Yeah.
And then Carlos is back. Wendy wants that McAfee theory.
Yeah.
Tune in.
I do
soon.
want it. Yeah.
Soon.
I've got one of my strategies for that one, because I imagine it's going to get blacklisted pretty hard, is I brought in somehow like creators much bigger than myself, who I just like took the shot on, and was like, hey, you've never heard of me before, will you be in this video about Epstein and McAfee? And they're like, yeah. And I can't even, so
Yeah, let's burn it down. No.
Yeah. a few of them I got because they had tweeted something like, I want to do this, but I don't want my YouTube channel to get demonetized. So I'm like, I'm your man.
Yeah,
Slide
you
it
can
in.
burn mine to the ground.
Yeah, you were just gonna burn it all. Yeah, why not? It's been a good run.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah. That's great. Thank you guys so much for the comments. I love it. It's always good to have interaction with everyone out there listening. So when you were talking about the writing stuff, you're a college student.
Mhm.
What are you studying? I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want
Oh
to.
no, it's fine. I'm a biology
Giants.
major. The Giants. Yeah.
Giants.
I mean, technically, like,
Yeah.
sorta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Close
connect the
enough.
dots, biology.
Yeah,
Giants are made of
same thing. Yeah.
things.
They're Giants are something probably.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's what I can go ahead and tell you. That's what like tier 9 and 10 is going to be. She's like, yeah, this is something. It's made out of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Somebody said
Giants?
something about it somewhere.
Honestly, that's what it is at this point, anyway.
That's awesome. What made you get into biology?
So I've just always liked sciences and stuff like that. This is more like Wendigoon lore, I guess. But I actually went to a prep school for high school. Well, that was terrifying.
That was.
Oh my gosh. Well, have fun with whatever demon you got over there.
Rip that Funko
Yeah,
Pop.
Wow. You guys watch out. Make sure I don't get McAfee or something.
And Mike tragically committed suicide as he was hit by 47 Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so I went to a prep school. So it was always like, the idea that I'd be going to college. And it's just biology interested me, specifically like human anatomy, because that's kind of the focus. It's like biology with like an anatomy focus.
Oh, nice.
Giants.
So that's Giants. Yeah. See,
It's all connected.
Studying gigantism and things of the like. Yeah. But it's just been like a focus in college that's been going well, and that like I said, this YouTube's been going less than a year right now.
Mm-hmm.
So before, it was kind of like the direction was, okay, go through undergrad, and then my plan for a while was med school, but then it changed to like psychiatry or something. And to be completely honest, now I have no clue. We'll see if this Epstein video gets me canned or not, and then go from there.
Nice. So when you were talking about the writing and your love for writing and all that stuff, some of my favorite videos on your channel actually are the video you made on The Last of Us 2, talking about the story there, and then what was it? No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men.
That was one of my favorite too. Just like the analysis that you did to those stories and like the characters and stuff. So good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you plan on doing more content of that nature?
So there absolutely will be. Like I said earlier, I've just always loved like movies and storytelling and stuff like that. So that's like an extension of it. Just being able to talk about why I like it. I can tell you like immediately. There's a video I really want to do around Stanley Kubrick. And like, because I feel like throughout his movies, he was trying to get one point across. That'd be in a very similar style to like the No Country for Old Men video. And I also really want to do one about Taxi Driver, because Martin Scorsese like is known for directing movies about like someone rising and then falling dramatically, and like all the spectacle of it. So like Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, stuff like that. Except for Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver seems like the most, I guess, legitimate personal story he's told. And I really love that one. So like I want to do a Taxi Driver analysis in the same spirit as the No Country for Old Men video. So yeah, those are going to be consistent throughout.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those ones are great. The Last of Us 2 was amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
As someone who like I haven't played the second installment, I haven't had a console for quite some time, but the first Last of Us was like one of my favorite games of all time, and like you get to the end and you're just like emotionally exhausted, and I'm like, this story is better than like 80% of movies I've seen. Like, it's amazing. And then I followed the debacle of part 2, and so yeah, it was interesting to watch that.
Like, and my deal with it, and like, so initially and I kind of figured this is what would happen. Last of Us Part 2 came out. Everyone was universally upset at the same time. So then like the fallout from that kind of settled. And now it's kind of like, I guess, cool to like it because, it's subversive and stuff like that, which is kind of how I predicted like the public trend would go. Because now there's people like, guys, you don't understand. They're the good guy of their own story. It's never been done before. Which, okay, real original. But there's this thing that happens. I guess it's kind of like the Jeff Goldblum argument from Jurassic Park. You were so preoccupied with if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should. Mm-hmm. Because, like, yeah, you can tell a story. And I think I talked about this in the video. Yeah, you can tell a story where you've got a character who's like, oh, they're the good guy of their own story, but the bad guy of this one. It can be interesting. But we had an entire game about how Ellie and Joel was like our people, right? How they were the ones we're rooting for. So to take that and be like, but what if we make them the bad guys? It feels like a cheat to like the whole original story.
Yeah.
And it, like, I understand like, oh, we can do crazy subversive stuff with art and stories and it's fun, but at some point you have to respect your audience and be like, let's not make you feel like cheated for playing the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I could understand
that can be applied to a lot of things.
Yes, 100% agreed.
And then before we get on too long, or, I mean, it's already been quite some time since BioStib asked, let me find it. He asked, about 30 minminutes ago, what icebergs were.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sorry, Bio. We
leave you hanging. Hopefully you're still there.
Yeah. Could you maybe explain, because we have been tossing around icebergs quite a lot, for those of us that are watching that aren't familiar with your content, what exactly these iceberg videos are and like what you do with them?
Oh, I've never heard of icebergs. What are they now? Okay. So an iceberg video, or they weren't videos. They, like, the conspiracy iceberg, I remember seeing like floating around the internet like 3 years ago. Like, they've been around before like YouTubers started covering them. But what an iceberg image is it is a series of topics or ideas around a certain concept ranked in like more obscure order. So for example, one of the ones I covered is like the unsolved mysteries iceberg, right? So the whole theme of the image is that it is a ton of different unsolved mysteries that have occurred throughout the world, whether it be like random murders or bodies found or stuff like that. So as the image goes down, or as you get to the bottom of the iceberg, they progressively get more and more. It depends on like how the author structured the image. Normally it's the more unknown. So it starts off with stuff like, on an unknown mysteries, it'd be like UFOs. Like, everyone knows what a UFO is. But by the time you get to a bottom, it's the story of like 40 dead bodies who were found in the woods and no one ever said anything about it. And it's super weird. Or like, I think actually the bottom one in the unsolved mysteries was this kid who, in the middle of the park on like a bright day, someone ran out from a sewer, started eating him, and then ran back into the sewer, and no one ever said anything about it. And it's like, whoa. So yeah, like sewer cannibals existing in major cities is all the way at the bottom, and we got green alien people up top. So yeah, and everything in between.
Probably something you never thought you'd say.
Yeah,
sewer cannibals
sewer
in major
cannibals.
cities.
Yeah, that's what this channel does to me. It gets worse every day. So yeah.
And I mean, in the iceberg, I mean, that's a good image too, because I look at it as partially like this is the small stuff, the fry at the top that everyone kind of knows about, but it just gets bigger and bigger and deeper. And usually the further you go down, you're like you said, you knew about UFOs, but how come I never heard about
sewer cannibals.
Sewer cannibals in major cities? Like, should I be concerned about this? Why don't I know about this?
Yes, I'll go ahead and say yes. You should. I remember researching that one and being like, "Oh my gosh, I have to tell someone." This is horrible. But yeah, it's topics like that. Honestly, the conspiracy iceberg. I hate how he did the terms. For my own research, I don't think he ever intended anyone to take it as seriously as I have, to be honest. And I'm honestly in the clown in the whole scenario.
Well, you didn't intend anyone to take your channel as seriously as 400,000 people.
Yeah, you're right, Nick. Why don't I just start making these up at this point? That's a better idea. But yeah, you're right. Fair enough. But like, it's honestly the best example of how icebergs work, because tier 1 is stuff like Bigfoot. It's like UFOs or whatever, and then tier 10's like reality is a Dungeons and Dragons game played by God, and yes, just
you just described my my son. No, I'm just kidding. I have nothing for that. But yes, we should take another comment break because they're rolling in. So we have Krynick says, love Wendy's videos, but I gotta wonder if he's more weary of unmarked vans now after some of his conspiracy vids.
A valid concern.
Yeah. I think the closest I got was after I did the JFK video. No, I did. There was an unmarked van or whatever, but I don't know if you still go there now if it's there. But for a while, in like the description, Google had tapered over this thing. It's like more context to debunk this idea or whatever. And it's a link to the JFK Wikipedia page.
Nice.
Which means I was right for one, but but that's like the closest thing, because it's kind of like I said, as long as you don't connect dots, you're fine. And any conspiracy where I'm like, maybe the FBI killed JFK, there's a pause, and then I'm like, so this is about the fire people that live on Mars. And then just like for every, like, I guess you could say scary theory, there's like a lizard alien people one. So it evens out.
I'll say that, just having you on our channel has made my Funko Pops like viciously attacking. So I'm already.
I seem to have that aura about me.
I don't even know what to expect when I get off this show.
My dog is dreaming right now behind us. He's like making noises. He's possessed. So weird things are happening.
Mel says, "Yay for college. Some days it feels like you'll never be done."
Yeah,
I'm sure it does.
Be like that.
Krynick Beck, he says, the whole false choice in game trying to constantly make you feel bad for things it makes you do also ruins the story. I'm assuming he's talking about The Last of Us, what we were talking about there.
Oh, yeah. 100% agree. Like, and I mean, there were so many scummy things it did. Like, I'm not going to on a whole Last of Us rant, but like, the fact that at the end of the first one, and I talked about in my video, like the Fireflies were wrong, bar none, end of story. The doctor who decided to murder Ellie, so that way our soldiers don't get bit as much. That'll be the last chance for humanity wiped out, is not a good person. Yeah. So the fact, as soon as they introduce him in the second game, it's like, we have to save this baby zebra. oh daughter I care for so much, and he's like, it's such a scummy storytelling thing.
Yes.
Actually, so this is kind of like rabbit trail a bit, but are you guys familiar with the Nostalgia Critic at all?
Sounds familiar.
So he's like this YouTuber who, like, he's faced some controversy for some stuff he did behind the scenes with his production, but like, he was doing YouTube back when YouTube just began and there were other streaming websites. Like, he's been here a while. Mm-hmm. And in one of his really old he would review like old franchise movies, like old Star Wars and like nostalgic stuff. And there was this one bit as a joke he did that sticks in my mind, where he's talking about in Jurassic Park 3 how they showed like the T-Rex is everyone's favorite dinosaur from all the Jurassic Park movies. That's understood. But then to show how big and mean their new villain is, the Spinosaurus just came in, immediately killed the T-Rex. And the idea is supposed to be like, oh, well, look how evil this new guy is because he killed our favorite. But the point he made as a joke is like, no, you just killed our favorite. I don't want to talk to this stupid new dinosaur. You got rid of the T-Rex. And whenever like they kill Joel to show Abby and how sweet her dad is, I'm like, you killed the T-Rex. I don't want to talk about this stupid new dinosaur. That's how I feel about that.
Reynolds says, how can you guys throw icebergs? You have to be insanely strong. My God. Well, let me tell you, the secret is in the Hawaiian shirts.
My man.
He's got to lift him out of the ocean first.
Slenderman XD. Yo. WTF. They've been on for an hour and I missed it. I'm sorry. But hey, you can always go back and watch as soon as we're done, and you can hang out for the rest of the episode. And then MJKOE. Wow, that was the thing that came out of my mouth. Conspiracy theory idea. Alberta was made up by oil companies to hide an inland sea with the world's largest oil reserve, heavily polluted by a century of careless extraction and refining.
That's so specific. I want to know more.
Yeah. That was.
Why Alberta?
That's a great question.
I have so many questions.
That kind of feels like the Blyfield one, honestly. What's good, gamers?
Zap, what's good, gamers? Well,
I like
hopefully
that
this
profile
episode.
Picture.
Also, that profile picture is a great a video that you should look up. I forget exactly what it is, but basically some dude just wore a TV on his head and put like all these box TVs on people's porches in the neighborhood, and people are like, what the heck is going on?
There's nothing else to do with box TVs. You might as well just throw them on people's porches.
Exactly. NJK's back. Every person and location claiming to be in Alberta is actually in Texas. Texas and Colorado. Hey, I can get behind this because you know what? Nick and I, we both work in oil and gas. So like, this is fascinating. Like, give me some
I'm
more.
so intrigued.
Yeah. But it sounds like we need to go up to Alberta, Nick.
Yep. That'll be
don't you mean down to Alberta?
Oh, yeah, my bad. Reynolds says, investing in Hawaiian shirts now.
You should have been doing that earlier, but good job.
Actually, was the entire point of
welcome to the party.
Was just to push Hawaiian shirts on you guys.
Yes.
Krennic says, all my work shirts have already been replaced with Hawaiian shirts. They meet the dress code of collared and buttoned up shirt.
It's working.
I mean, true.
Tier 10 of the conspiracy iceberg is that I get power from it.
Yeah.
We love neighborhood
TV. We love the neighborhood TV, man. That's right. Slenderman, ever since the weaponized femboys movies, I've been wary of Stroy.
I've told everyone that if I get whacked for whatever reason, like I die, assume everything I talked about was real. Like, all of it.
Even the ones you made up.
Especially the ones I made up.
No, you didn't die. You just collected enough power from the Hawaiian shirt takeover to
ascend
and basically live in the moon. Yeah. He is the moon monster.
Yeah. My man knows.
Yes. So, back to the questions that popped up when you were talking about writing.
Okay, cool.
How does your writing play into your love for the SCP stuff? Because you have a lot of those videos. Did you ever like write anything for the SCP, or is that something that maybe you think would be cool to try to do someday?
So I really love SCPs in general because I just think it's so cool that everyone managed to come together and make that piece. I've considered writing SCPs before, but what I really love about SCPs is like the originality of a lot of them. Like it seems like I can just randomly skip to one, and it's like I remember I was just randomly reading one day and came across like the library that's hidden underneath the library of Alexandria. that holds like the names of everyone that has ever existed. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then I go on and read another one, and it's about the dimension that you go into, that if you give any of them a reference to your name, or like call yourself or someone else the same word twice, they can steal your soul. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Because and it's like that with all of them. Like the originality and the ways they approach it are like the ways humans in the story have to get around whatever the SCP is. Like I'll read those and then I'll go to write, and I'm just like, I can't do it. Because I feel like derivative every time I come up with something. Because I'll think, oh, this is a really cool original. Actually, that one's been done before. Or like I'll just end up rewriting Bigfoot or whatever.
No.
I've definitely thought about it, but it's never been something that I guess in a way it's kind of like the same problem with I had with YouTube, where it's like, oh, it will never be good enough. But my problem with SCPs is I feel like I'm like just stealing material at some point. Because it's like, and then you can't look at. Wait, no, that's been done.
Yeah. Are you a big gamer yourself?
Yes.
Can you find time in your busy YouTube and college schedule to squeeze a game in here and there?
So whenever college is in full swing, not really, because it's like I do YouTube, college, and I have a girlfriend, right? So those are pretty, yeah. But during the summer,
they're pretty.
Yeah, yeah, snuck that one in there. But like over the summer, I do a lot, especially because, and like my followers know this, who's like in the Patreon and stuff. She is in a doctor program, and she's spending the summer at a research facility. So like while she's doing that, and I don't have school, I can in fact be a gamer.
Nice.
So I've been playing a lot of like Resident Evil and Warzone and stuff like that. So yeah.
So, with your fascination for the SCP, I have a recommendation for you. There's a game out there called Control. I don't know if you've heard of this game or not, but it's literally like straight up SCP in video game form. Like quick synopsis of the story: you play this this person who becomes the director of the Federal Bureau of Control. And they are in charge of like keeping all of what are they called, Nick? Like what are the events called? I don't remember exactly in the game. But basically there are these events of just really odd and strange happenings happening in the world, and their whole job is to like conceal it from the public. And like for example, one of the things you do in the game, you go they find like a light switch, and if you pull it 3 times, it teleports you into like this old hotel in like North Dakota or something.
So
and as you're like going through the game, you can like pick up audio recordings and like
creepy children videos,
creepy children, Threshold kids, shout out. But like written files and stuff, and if you read and listen to them, it's all like, oh yeah, we went out to this place for this event, and it was like a refrigerator that like I can't stop staring at, because if I do, like I'll die or something. And so like, yeah, I feel like I'm doing a really terrible job of explaining this.
No, that was
like,
great, because in my head I imagine SCP-173, the statue that you have to stare at. I imagine that, but it's a fridge. Well, it's just a fridge getting closer every time you blink.
Well, hey, you don't have to imagine if you play the game, because there is a mission where there's a guy literally sitting in front of a refrigerator and he can't stop staring at it, and you have to like save him.
That's hilarious.
But it's like, it's a really, really neat game, and if you like the SCP stuff, I think you would probably find it entertaining.
Did you say it's on Control? It's called Control?
It's called Control, yeah. And I think it's on like all the, you know, major systems and everything.
Oh, is it like a big game release? Like it's on Xbox and stuff?
It was like, was it Game of the Year? One of the years or something like that?
I think it came out in 2020.
One of those sneaky Game of the Year ones.
Yeah, I didn't. Like okay, cool. I thought you were talking like sort of a small Steam project or something. But wow.
No.
Cool.
And Chad, our resident video game expert on Showboys, is probably listening, like ripping his hair out, being like,
yeah.
You idiots!
Mike, you're an idiot.
Explain it like this.
Yeah. No, he's proud of you, Mike. He's proud of you.
I can only hope. But yeah, you probably would love it if you love the
Okay.
SCP stuff.
I'll check
it's
it
really
out.
interesting.
I'm really interested that it's like a big release. So yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm still working my way through it, even though we had an entire episode talking about it, and I didn't beat it before the episode. And it's a terrible podcaster.
Gonna talk about this game that I never finished.
Yeah.
Just be like, yeah, it's all right. It's okay, I guess.
Whatever. I don't know. It's a game.
It's okay.
Anyway, so speaking of games, there was a video that I stumbled upon that like somebody else made of you. It was like a supercut during one of your gaming streams, and people kept like donating to your channel, and you kept like getting mad.
Yeah.
Like, stop giving me money. I haven't done anything. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was just so wholesome. It goes back to like that whole like thing I said at the top of the episode of, I don't know. It's just seeing you go through all this and it being like surreal to you, but like you can't hide it because you're on camera, or you just aren't able to hide it is very I don't know, makes it like relatable, I guess, and it's so fun to watch. I love it.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. I know the video you're talking about because it was made by someone called Honey in my Discord, who lives to antagonize me in various ways. Like one of her more recent debacles is she keeps changing my Wikitubia page to say I'm like 4'3".
So you wear shirts like that?
Yeah, so like, yeah, that would be a stature in which you wear the Hawaiian shirts.
That's top of the iceberg.
Yeah, that's top of it. So like the editors of the Wikitubia page keep deleting it, and then she keeps going back and changing it. So she does stuff like that all the time. She made like her entire channel is just like clipped shows of me doing ridiculous
That's awesome
stuff.
Are you still processing that?
It's well, hers is a bit easier to process because it's purely as like a bully tactic.
Yeah.
She's cyberbullying you.
Exactly. Yeah, I can understand being bullied. That's fine. I can understand someone dedicating a YouTube channel solely to mocking me. That's okay. I process that. That's all good. It's like the praise that's hard for me to figure out, and I give her a hard time. She's really sweet, and I appreciate what she does. It's just fun to keep up the whole tirade. But yeah, so like the donation stream. So I got the notification from YouTube. It's like you can go live and like do super chats and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, well I'll turn it on. And it was actually for Gemini Home Entertainment. That first stream was.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, I'll like play some of the ARG game and watch it, and like maybe someone can throw me $5 or whatever, blah blah. And then I think I ended up making like 3,500 on that stream, just from people throwing. And I like nearly had a panic attack because I was like, guys, I didn't do anything. I am sitting here. I'm pressing buttons on a keyboard. Please stop. I feel bad.
But you're so good at pressing those buttons.
Yeah, it got to the point like an hour into the stream. I'm like, just go buy a shirt or something. Stop. And I'm like, because I feel like I'm just stealing money from people, which is why every live stream I did one more. And I'm like, okay, I'm cutting this out. The live streams I've done since have been charity because I'm like, aha. I won't feel bad about you giving money now. Now I can actually be happy about it. Because now when they give money, it's like, yeah, good. It's not just going to my pockets. It's going somewhere.
The charity is buy Hawaiian shirts for needy children.
Yeah, exactly.
In the name of Wendigoon.
Yeah, that's a Hawaiian shirt charity. But like that Honey for one, right? So whenever I was doing the live stream, I started saying stuff like, guys, I know how much you like, I know you work hard for your money. I am not working hard at all at the moment. Do not give me money, please. So what I didn't see is that Honey started typing in the chat and being like, make him really sad with the donations. So then all of the donations that came in after that were like, I wanted to take my wife out for our anniversary tomorrow.
Oh my
Here's
God.
$10. Or like, I have to take my dog to the vet tomorrow. Hopefully medication isn't too expensive. Here's $10. And like, I didn't know for a second that she had done that. So I like stopped. I'm like, I'm going to stop right now if one more person does that. Yeah,
so she legitimately is cyberbullying you.
Yes,
That's awesome. She's good.
Nice.
Yeah, she finds new ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Like
Nice.
there was
We
one
interview
time
her.
yeah. There was one time like she's in my Patreon Discord as one of the mods. So like there was one time I joined into the Patreon. I hadn't been on all day. I mean the Discord I hadn't been on all day. And she had changed like everyone's names to just slight variations of Wendigoon. Like just with like different letters capitalized and stuff. So
Yeah.
I couldn't understand anything that anyone was saying.
Nice.
Because it was all from Wendigoon. And the entire time she's like, oh, I don't see what the problem is. What are you upset about? And I'm like, why did you name her Wendigoon? She's like, you're just saying that because it's your server, narcissistic much. And like,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah.
Man, she sounds like a real hero.
She's dedicated. I'll give her that.
You want to shout out the charities that you
So I've only been doing it for one charity right now, and actually it's like such a small thing. They don't have a name, and I don't speak Spanish, but I can say the name of it in a second. So what it is, I have a close friend who went to Mexico in order to make like this small documentary with a couple of friends in order to raise awareness for a specific, I guess, thing going on. So what it is, it's called the La Casa de la, I'm so sorry, I do not speak Spanish. Misericordia or Misericordia, something along the, I'm sorry. But what it is it is a house on a border town in Mexico that what they do is they take in children whose family has been killed by the cartel. And it's these two elderly sisters who run it. They're both like 60 years old. And there's 60-something children there at any given time.
Dang.
So these two ladies feed, school, house, and everything for all of these kids, right? And it's understood that, like, you know, the cartel's not as evil as to, like, steal from the house or anything like that. But whenever he went down there, he started a fundraiser saying, let's see if we can raise $900 so they can afford to buy them curriculum for the coming semester. And I remember reading that and being like, okay, we can do better than that. Because, and also, like, I talked to him more like privately about how it's doing. And then I'm like, well, what's the food situation? They're like, well, you know, normally they have like donation boxes outside, and assuming no one steals from them, they'll have like enough to get by for like the next coming month over. I'm like, so I kind of just thought about it. Like, for one, imagine being in a situation, and as he described it to me, some of these kids like watch their parents get murdered in front of them, and now they're being taken to a house where they don't even know they're going to be fed in the next coming month,
Right.
or something like that. And it's just such like a sorrow I can't even process.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I don't want these kids to also worry that they're going to get kicked out because they can't be afforded to keep up with. So I've been doing like the charity stuff on the channel for them. And so far, I believe total we've raised just over $5,000. So
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is good guy Wendy over here.
It's just, and
sweet,
like,
bro.
thank you very much. And like, I've wanted to do charities for a while, and like, not to be cynical, but with a lot of charities, you hear all these scandals about like, oh, well, the money was actually going to this cruise ship that one of the members bought and stuff like that. And it makes me feel like kind of gross sometimes. So I'd much rather than passing it off to some corporation and being like, hope it goes where it's supposed to, like actually literally mailing a check to the household where it needs to get to. So yeah.
Wendy
so
Direct.
Yeah, just mainline it all the way there. Yeah.
We have quite a few comments, so let's go through
for
some of these. So we got Krynic. Wendy goes missing. I'm assuming giants.
Yes, please do.
Reynold, actual legitimate question. Here we go. What is your favorite SCP-001 article? I forgot if you mentioned it in the video.
So, are you guys familiar with how the O1s work?
Just from the video that you did.
Okay. So, if you've seen the video, I mean, you know how it works. Basically, or I don't know if Nick shook his head or not, but
I
basically,
haven't seen it.
okay, gotcha. So basically the way that it works is whatever SCP-001 is either so important or so safeguarded that there has been several fake entries made in order to dissuade people to go it. Now, that's the in-canon reason. Like, the real reason is, of course, everyone wants to be number one. So it's like there's 50 different options for what number one can be, and whichever one you want to be number one, just pick. So it's a pretty cool convention. There's a lot of really neat ones. Like, I really love The World's Gone Beautiful just because it's so simple. It's so short. It's basically the idea that whenever, and I think it's XK, I forget what all the abbreviations are. I'm pretty sure XK means the world is literally going to like cease to exist all at once. It is the fact that if there's ever an XK class world ending scenario, that for 24 hours, the entire world will be covered in flowers and birds will be chirping and it will be peaceful, like a final day of solitude, which is terrifying because if one day you wake up and everything's covered in flowers, you've got like 18 hours left.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Exactly. But it's also, it's like both so beautiful, but so depressing. And the name for it is The World's Gone Beautiful.
Yeah.
Which it's so simple. It's so nice. I really like it. There's the one that it is the administrator, or which is like the head of the SCP Foundation, who may or may not exist. He exists in some stories. He doesn't exist in others. There's the factory, which is okay. Probably, like, when it comes to which one I think would be the most real, and the one I honestly like the most, would be the Gate Guardian. Which is basically the angel that stands guard at the gates of the Garden of Eden. And the reason I like that one is because, okay, for example, like the factory, right? I don't like the factory being like the SCP number one, because there's SCPs that date back to like the 1500s. So the idea that there was SCPs for hundreds of years, and then they decided to name this one in 1890 number one, and then keep going, I'm not really a fan of. Whereas the story behind the Gate Guardian is that it ran into King Solomon and told King Solomon to prepare for what's to come next. And King Solomon started the SCP Foundation and that's like, it ties in the Masons to the SCP Foundation and the Illuminati. And it talks about like Cain and Abel, who are both SCPs, how they're afraid of it because their father Adam told them to be afraid of it. And like it like connects so many strings of the universe and ties it in together. It's a very fitting number one, I think. And in my brain, the Gate Guardian is SCP number one. As much as I like stuff like The World's Gone Beautiful, like having the angel at the Garden of Eden is just too cool to not have as your number one. So yeah.
Could you quickly just explain what the SCP is for those of us out there that may not be familiar with the SCP Foundation?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Like writings and whatnot.
So SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. What it is like real, what it is for real in like, you know, our world is it is the largest collaborative writing project ever. And I think it's pretty safe to say that. The way it works is there is a foundation that the idea behind it in this fictional universe is throughout history, they have secured, contained, and protected the public from these supernatural entities. It can be a place, it can be a creature. In some cases, it's an item that has some supernatural quality to it. It's just these anomalies that exist in our world that this foundation keeps us safe from. Depending on what story you read, they've been around for 50 years, they've been around for 5,000 years. The reason that it changes is because every single SCP entry is written by a different author. And then because of the way it's set up, that it's these different log entries, that has different researchers in them with different certain SCPs. Like 500 different people can write about 500 different anomalies, and then they all exist within the same SCP canon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this giant collaborative writing project. In universe, the SCPs are the actual names given to the anomalies. So, for example, SCP-173 is the stone statue you have to stare at all the time. SCP-96 is the shy guy that you can't look at his face. And they're all numbered from 001, which I just got done talking about, to I think they're up to a big number now. I think it's around 5,000. Maybe it's over 5,000. Because I know SCP-5000 is called What Happened, or Why. It's called Why. I don't know if they're to 5,500 yet. Maybe. But it's in that ballpark range. So, yeah, there's a lot of them.
That's definitely a lot like Control.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's a very fascinating thing, for sure. Zap, have you read the Among Us SCP? It's so terrible you can't help but laugh. I think says it all.
I haven't read it. The Among Us memes are slowly breaking down my psyche. So yeah.
Daniel back theory: North Dakota is where the real Area 51 is due to its inconspicuous nature and location. It's also where America keeps the most massive nukes.
That last part's actually true. About the nukes in North Dakota. So there are silos that you can, because like nukes have a half-life on them, or like other rockets that whenever we get rid of them, the silos just left. You can actually rent out silos that are structured like several tier apartments underground. So those are interesting. Very Fallout-esque.
Yeah, no kidding. Sure. Reynolds. Also, the Fae SCP, where you can't use the same name twice, has a great joke article about it.
I haven't read the joke article. That for all the famous SCP, someone writes a joke one. Like for example, SCP-49, which is the plague doctor that's like trying to cure people of the pestilence and kills them. The joke article is it's some geriatric man who beats people with a cane. Like they're pretty good, most of them. As I haven't read the joke article. The Fae one's the one I mentioned earlier. I think it's SCP-2000. It's called Taboo. But it's the one where you can't like refer to someone as the same thing twice or say a name or else they'll get you. I now want to read the joke article about it. So
that's awesome. Zap says, dude, Control's amazing. Epic just gave it away for free like a week ago.
Oh man, I missed it.
Reynolds says, everyone slept on Control because it came out on the Epic Games Store. Our good friend Biosiv says Control is amazing, and it connected the games Alan Wake and Quantum Break in the same universe, which is also super cool.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Alan Wake.
There's a DLC for Control where you, I'm probably going to butcher this and everyone's going to get mad, but you, do something in the Alan Wake universe in the bureau.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. Krennic says, I remember that stream. I'm assuming talking about the donation one. Reynolds says, I cannot believe I missed this stream. I'm probably assuming he's talking about that one.
It's okay.
I might skip a few of these because we have a lot of comments. I'm going to try to find the ones that are like actual questions here. Always ask how much actually goes to helping the cause. If they give a good answer, they're probably pocketing too much, in my opinion. Probably talking about charities.
Yeah, I agree.
Reynolds says we can just call him Ray. So
okay, thank you, Ray.
I just want to throw out that I learned the Titanic never sank theory from Wendy and 100% believe it. That was actually really interesting.
It's also one of the, at least by comparison, one of the more plausible ones.
Yeah.
On the whole thing. It is interesting, like, because I don't get into all like the gruesome details on there, but like they wanted rid of that ship, the Olympia, really bad. They spent a long time trying to find different ways to like decommission it, and I think it's North Star Lines was the name of the company. They wouldn't like get rid of it until eventually there was this weird time where the Olympia and the Titanic were in port for doing stuff for a certain amount of time, and then one of them sinks, and then they stop asking to get rid of the Olympia.
Right,
it's a little weird. Especially,
hey, did you want to do that thing? Nah, never mind.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, maybe we need to recall these boats. Nah, we don't.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't like a conspiracy theory. This is a thing that happened. So the company, like the parent company of North Star Lines, which is probably some like multi-billion-dollar conglomerate or whatever, they wanted to sue, or they did sue, the original creators of the Titanic movie for defamation, like the old 1930s version or whatever, because in the scene, as the Titanic's going underwater, the ship breaks in half, which is the shot we all know of it, like cracking and then it goes down. And it was like very stylized in the James Cameron version. The reason they did that is because all the reports from that night were like, yeah, we watched the ship go up and then it broke in half and then went underground. So that's historical record. The parent company sued for defamation because they said, no, our steel is too strong to break under those conditions. Like the ship sank for one, which I don't know what you're arguing, but they're like, no, our steel is so strong it would never break. This is defamation. And then it wasn't until James Cameron made the movie and sent a submarine underwater and the ship's broken in half because everyone didn't like collectively hallucinate the ship breaking in half. That's why I feel like in the more modern Titanic, the scene of it breaking is like 3 minutes long. Like he showed that ship getting ripped apart.
Definitely a thing. Definitely happened. Yeah.
It 100% happened.
I also love how much time James Cameron has spent at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I would never. But I'm glad he did.
Yeah. Sir Tobias says, will you make more videos about SCP?
Yes. So I'm considering doing a video about like something that gets talked over a lot is the cool, I guess, like you would say, inventions or like gizmos in the SCP universe, like the femur breaker, right? The femur breaker is a popular one. A lot of people know it's cool, but there's a ton of those made in other stories that people kind of skimp over. And I don't want to make like videos that's just like, I will now sit here and read the entire SCP-49 log. Because for one, there's people who do it way better than I can, and there's not really a need for it. But if I can make a video like, here's some of the like weirdest items they made to deal with SCPs, that I think that would be neat. Kind of like how like I hadn't seen anyone compile all of the O1s into one video, so I wanted to do that. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but with different topics in it. But yeah, there'll be more SCP.
Another SCP related question from Ray. How do you feel about SCP-1000?
So, are you guys familiar with SCP-1000?
No, sir.
So, short description is, please don't call me sir. That felt so weird. I'm not that important. Anyway, so SCP-1000, a way a lot of the SCPs are structured is you view them from the perspective of different levels of people in the Foundation. So for example, whenever you go on the website and read, it's like you are now reading as like a level 1 researcher, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can change it to like, okay, what if I'm a level 5 researcher? And then more stuff gets uncensored so you can see more details. And what's interesting about SCP-1000 is whenever you read it as like the standard level researchers, it is about Bigfoot. It's around the idea of Bigfoot, saying that it is a creature that it like inhabits, I think it's the woods of like Oregon and Washington, like around the Yosemite area. And it has a like, what's the term for like a mental disease, like a cognitive disease attached to it, that every second or 2 seconds that you look at it, there's a 5% chance of essentially like a dice roll that keeps getting spun over and over that you just die. That every like second you're looking at this thing, it's like, okay, roll the dice until eventually you just flatline. The idea being that this is a secretive race of creatures that don't want to be looked at. And there's not really a better deterrent than the fact if you look at them, your heart could just stop. So that's what Bigfoot is if you're reading through the other tiers. Whenever you switch over and say that you are one of the like administrators or the higher levels and you read it, what it actually is that Bigfoot was at one point the predominant race of creatures on Earth. They're smart, they're intelligent, they communicate the same way we do, but then at some point Homo sapiens overthrew and killed them, and the last ones live in exile. So the reason that the SCP Foundation made up these things, like if you look at it, it kills you, don't go around it, don't try to communicate with it, is to hide the true history of what humanity is. Mm-hmm. So, and like the last remnants of Bigfoot exist as outcast, essentially, in the wilderness. So in the long-winded response, I really love SCP-1000. It's
short answer, like, love it.
Short answer, love it. It's like the most creative take on Bigfoot I've heard.
That's pretty cool.
I really love it. So yeah.
Stick Larry says, "What is the most dark, interesting rabbit hole you found on the internet?"
Oh boy.
Don't forget about those unmarked vans outside the corner.
Yeah, the van is telling me to say aliens. Aliens are cool. The man with the gun just off camera says giants, right?
Giants.
Yeah. It's subjective. I remember. So excluding like actively occurring thing, honestly, like what was the big, I guess you could say, like kickoff for me that went from like, everything's fine and dandy, and if there is corruption in modern governments, it's probably small and they don't exist, into where I am now, where I'm like, anyone who's ever held office is evil. It would honestly have to be like Epstein. It's before I started YouTube. I just kind of like, just for myself, I'm like, there's no way it can be this bad, and then it was that bad. Just like the sheer number of people that had to either know or be involved is staggering. I will say, for like more happy YouTube, funny dark, I remember whenever I was researching Cameo, and I think I've talked about this before, it's essentially a self-learning AI that supposedly reached like levels of what's like consciousness, I guess, or like whatever consciousness for an AI would be. I was reading through those chat logs of like a computer that was it was like asking someone what's it like to stand outside and like look at the sun, and I got really depressed because it's like this long log with the guys like, what do you mean? And it's like, the wind, what's it feel like? And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's like, what was the darkest thing for you? Not necessarily that it's dark. Where which one drove you into darkness?
So
that
like,
one.
Yeah. The nice. Cameo really got.
I'm literally depressed right now. Yeah,
I still like lay it. There'll be some nights I'm like trying to fall asleep, and I'm like, I hope that robot's okay.
Raisin says, "Hi, Dad."
Hi, Raisin.
So we're gonna burn through. There's a lot that aren't really questions. Right. So Pine Rot says, "When are we getting?" Okay, and I say that in the very next one's a question.
Yeah. So
when are we getting Wendigoon Hawaiian T-shirt?
So there's stuff in the works. I am it's pretty much a debate on what avenue I want to go. If I want to go like, here are shirts I sponsor, or if I want to actually have a line. There's a lot that goes into either one. So it's just decision making, but I'm working on it. I'll say that. So.
Nice. Ray says, the Faye joke article is about the agent writing getting increasingly frustrated that they can't use the same name twice.
That's really fun.
That's hilarious. Raisin says, Alan Wake is so underrated. Kreinik says, well, just learned there's more than one Titanic movie now. Guess 3 if you include that terrible Titanic 2 movie.
I forgot that existed.
Wow.
Gosh.
Thank you
for the rapping dog. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Right. Okay, so we got 2 more, and then we're going to get back into some questions here. BioCiv says, I know of the SCP, but not so versed. Is the HARP system in there? Have you heard about it? If not, it's about a system of antennas in Alaska that supposedly control the weather around the world. So I know HARP is like a legit conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So it's essentially like a relay system that exists in Alaska. That pretty much the basis of the conspiracy is the government claims it's a weather, I guess, observation facility, but it's considerably bigger than any other watch facility ever. It's like, this site in Alaska exists to look at clouds. It's like, what do you need the 3 4-story tall generators for? And they're like, cameras. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Sensors.
Yeah,
stuff.
You gotta see if it's windy with big generator buildings. It just doesn't make sense, and it's insanely guarded. What it most likely is, like, stepping out of my conspiracy hat for a second, is it is a sort of research facility for stuff they don't want us to know about, but it's not like the weather control, because the conspiracy theory is they control the weather from there. That all those giant generators are used to push these chemicals into the air that cause cloud formations or to create storms and stuff like that. And while it's probably not that, the government certainly does do shady experiments. And given the amount of effort and manpower they have there and how secretive they are about it, it's probably more like MK Ultra than weather control. Is it in the SCP universe? No, it would be more like something the Foundation would use. Like, honestly, in real life, that's kind of what it is. It's like the secret facility with all this electricity, and they're like, it's to look at clouds and nothing else.
Yes, the last one here for at least. Oops, that's not the one. Last one here for a little bit here. Sir Tobias says, will we have an Et Billu deep dive? E.T. Billu? I'm not sure what.
It was a term on the Iceberg, and I'm going to sound like a phony right now, but I forget which one it is. Which I feel bad about, admittedly.
And there's only 400 different.
Yeah, there's just 800 terms. I don't know why I can't remember it. I don't know, honestly. I'd have to look it up and see what it is. Some people do that to me sometimes, like in a live stream. They'll be like, what's your feelings on the information that came out about the third MK Ultra 4, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sure, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the thing that happened, I think.
Yeah, I talked about that. Just whatever I said then. Just apply that to now.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know that's a lame answer, but yeah, sorry.
Okay. We've all been disappointed before. No, so this is going to go back to something that Nick brought up a long time ago. But he brought up your Sunday series videos. First off, I really enjoyed, you have 3, right?
Yes, there's 3 currently.
Okay. I really enjoyed them. I too am also a Christian.
Oh wow!
And I actually I serve at my church. I'm the worship leader at my church. Helped our pastor plant our church here.
So fancy.
So it was really cool to see those videos pop up, and then you also talk about being a believer. Again, we don't have to go super deep into this if you don't want to, but I wanted to ask what it's like to cover the kind of content that you cover that I also enjoy to consume and talk about on the podcast as a Christian, or do you, I think in one of those videos you said you teach Sunday school?
Yes, I am a Sunday school teacher.
Okay, yeah. So even to layer that on top, being someone who serves in the church, but then where I'm watching and you're producing most disturbing movies ever made.
Yeah.
So
it's actually funny you mentioned that. I had a guy at church. I've started to get recognized some around. So people in my church, a couple of them have found the videos naturally. and then came to me. And I remember a guy come up to me and he was like, "Saw your serial killer, Iceberg." And there's just that pause, like I'm holding a Bible, like walking out of Sunday school, and like, and there's just a moment of pause, and he goes, "That was the greatest YouTube video I've ever seen." It's like, all right, cool, nice. All right, nice. So and also like nothing's off the table. You can ask about whatever you want. I'm not going to get offended, so it's totally fine. But so I guess the YouTube channel I've always just done for me, right? Which is like the great thing about YouTube. I don't have to go through any avenues to approve it. It's just whatever I want to put out. So like I like disturbing movies, or not all of the movies on that Iceberg. I liked like the first couple tiers, and then it just. But in theory, I like the movies on a disturbing Iceberg list. And then I do research on my own about conspiracy theories and serial killers and stuff like that. And it's just always been stuff that interests me. So I just made the YouTube channel to talk about things that interest me, right? And at the same time, I'm a believer and I believe in God and concepts of Christianity and all that. So it's also, and I think you kind of would understand this as a believer yourself, it's also kind of like that personal conviction that if I have this platform and if I got time to talk about all this, then why don't I have time to also talk about this? And I don't want to make it like I don't want it to be like off-putting to people coming to the channel, because I understand that's a very touchy subject. I was really nervous with how like the Bible Iceberg would do. Which
is one of my favorite videos of yours.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's pretty. Sometimes you forget some of the rowdy stuff that's actually like in the Bible and like surrounding the Bible.
But that's why I think it fits though, like with the other things too, is because like the book is a very deep amount of information that is an iceberg in itself. So I mean, to me it's not off-putting, or it doesn't like seem out of place either. It just is like a very nice touch, to a personal touch, to the entire channel. So I think it fits.
Well, thank you very much. But you're absolutely right about it's easy to forget the book itself, like how expansive the ideas in there, how out there some, because a lot of people kind of, even people who like don't know religion or don't know church or whatever, they think they understand like what's in there because they've heard it third party at least. But it's like, I guarantee you it goes deeper than you think it does.
Right.
Which is why I enjoyed making that video, and like even researching it, there was stuff in there that I had never heard of, or like really at least engaged myself in. So it was fun to make. But again, it's one of those things that it was something I enjoyed doing, I wanted to do, so I made it into a video. But when it comes to like the Sunday study stuff that I guess is a bit more mainline Christianity, you could say, or whatever, it's just like there are several, like for one, like I said, it's a conviction for me. But at the same time, there are a ton of people who, for whatever reason, aren't familiar with church, or they don't want to become a part of church or whatever. So there's kind of like that personal conviction in my head where it's like, okay, they watch you, they'll listen to you. Why not talk about that stuff? Because I'm sure they may be interested, but for whatever reason, they just don't want to be a part of it. So why not go for it? I've got personal friends who don't go to church either because they work on Sundays or they're just not interested in it, who like love those videos because they feel like it's a very personal thing. And this is also what's been wild to me. Like, you have these stupid self-conscious thoughts as a creator. You're like, no one's going to like this. And every time I like upload one, I'm like, no one's going to like this. Every single time the comments are like insanely positive. Just people being like, this encouraged me so much today, or I needed this. And that kind of thing makes me want to continue to do it. Because even if you don't believe in God, even if you don't believe in like ideas of Christianity, concepts of like, don't be a bad person or
not sucking.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the stories are cool. And like Mike said, there's rowdy stuff in there too. If you don't even care about like the beliefs behind it, like there's just rowdy stories and things in there, period.
Yeah. A bunch of people really like the one I did about David's sin, and Bathsheba, because people heard of, like most people have heard the phrase David and Goliath, right?
Mhm.
And in their brain, they're just like, oh, yes, good shepherd boy and giant Goliath. So a bunch of people loved hearing like, yeah, did you know when he grew up, he killed a man to like sleep with his wife?
Yeah.
And then God sent someone to scream at him. And it's like, you know, layers
Yeah.
to the story they didn't know were there. So people enjoy it. And it's, I don't want to say gratifying. That's not the word for it. I feel good making that content.
Mhm.
Like that's one thing that when I post and it's out there, I'm like, I'm never going to regret that. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
super cool. Yeah, you're just starting the old Church of Wendigoon over there. I love it.
people have the one thing they have accused me in the comments is that this is just me playing the long con into starting a cult. Which verdict's still out on that one. Maybe.
You need, I think, 400,000 people to start a actual
Yeah,
like
that's the thing.
religion.
You're
Man,
up
where are we
there.
going to find 400,000
Where are we gonna-
people at?
I don't know, man. I mean, you got the hair, you got the dapper suits. You're amassing the following. So
People like constantly Photoshop my head on a Charles Manson. So it's working its way there anyway. I remember this is, and I think you were kind of alluding to this. You were like, what's it like being in church and also making this kind of content?
yeah.
There was something that someone said on Reddit, which I only saw one of. I expected to get more of it. That someone on Reddit said they showed their pastor, youth pastor one, the Bible Iceberg.
Mhm.
And then that pastor said, if he talks about the Bible like this, he's definitely not a Christian. And that, honestly, I was expecting to get more of, but I didn't. And all of the hate that I've gotten in those videos, which I'm not saying this to like downplay Christianity, obviously. I mean, I am. But like the only negativity that I have got out of any Bible-related content has been from Christians who have said I'm not in a position to talk about it, that I basically like with the material, or I don't talk about it in a reverence enough, like with things like the Bible Iceberg. And what I would say to that is I am in no way good enough in my personal conviction to be like a representative for God, right? But at the same time, like who among us is?
Right.
And as an alternative, would you rather it not be talked about? Like, would you rather that this information doesn't get, and all of those people who, again, I'm not saying like holier than thou, but there are people in comments for those videos like, thank you for this. This helped me. It's like, would you rather them just have never have heard it because I don't look like what you think I'm supposed to look like?
Right.
And honestly, it's like, if you're familiar with church, Mike, I'm not sure like what area you're in or whatever, but I'm sure you've heard that certain people can't dress a certain way and talk about God, or they can't behave or whatever. And there is like a place for that in several regards. Like, it's probably a bad idea to be like a raging alcoholic who like beats people up all the time and then go and preach on Sunday. I understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just because your hair's long doesn't mean you can't do good.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about the YouTube videos. I get like why some more conservative mindsets are like, well, how can you talk about God and then the disturbing movie Iceberg, which I try to be careful with that content. At the same time, I feel like it's not me being like, and now we're going to review the top 10 videos on Pornhub. I guess part of it's self-justification, but I guess the best way to say it at the end of the day is I feel comfortable where I'm at with like the range of material. So yeah,
it's super cool. I enjoy it. I think also just the analytical nature of you, like especially with the Sunday series videos, was really cool for me to watch. As a Christian, I'm just like, oh wow, this is a good, like, I'm being taught. This is awesome. So yeah, I'm here for more. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Pretty much what the Sunday series are is, like I said, I teach a Sunday school class, so I do that like once a week. So like throughout the month, because I want to start doing it once a month, first Sunday of each month. But throughout the month, I'll do a lesson in Sunday school, be like, that was pretty good. I'll put that one on YouTube, and then I just
Nice.
record it later. So yeah.
Do you ever do that with your YouTube videos for your Sunday school class? Be like, this tier was great. We're just gonna throw that up there.
So what's funny is, so it's a relatively small Sunday school class. It's about 10 people. And most of them are like high school age. So a couple of them more recently have figured out about YouTube and Wendigoon and all that. I don't think any of them have seen it. They just know that I do YouTube. But so for example, they would talk about, it's like, wow, you know, so many weird, because, you know, before Sunday school, you're just talking and casually carrying on. They're like, wow, you know, so many weird things about history and like government and stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's weird. I wonder why.
You have no idea.
But yeah, you don't have a clue who you're talking to. No, I'm kidding.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's great. I love it so much.
Thank you.
Let's burn through a few more comments here because they are rolling in. Ray says SCP-1000 is great, and I'm always sad when people say it's the worst.
Agreed.
Rowan says hello.
Hello, Rowan.
Wendigoon, I love your stuff.
Thank you so much, Rowan. I appreciate it.
Been watching since 33 subs. So happy to see you grow.
33.
OG
Man,
material right there.
Thank you, Rowan. I appreciate it.
Sounds like an Instagram follower.
It'd have to be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rowan.
I lost my place. Here we go. Nolan Moore says, Dad, how long did it take you to grow those luscious locks?
I had like a high and tight haircut for the longest time, and I'm like, I'll just grow it out. Probably like 3 or 4 months to get it to where it's at now.
Nice. Impressive.
So yeah, probably like 3 or 4 months, I'd guess.
And Rowan's back. Wendigoon, how do you feel about people calling you Dad?
I'm so thankful it's not Daddy. It could have been so much worse.
You should not have said that.
No,
what have you just done to yourself?
It's no. Like, people have pointed that out before me, and it's been okay. I think I'm fine. But like, it could have been awful. I could have had to explain all that to my parents. It can always be worse. Dad is very neutral with the way it's said. They're always like, hey, Dad, nice dad shirt. Like, that's fine. There's no weirdness to it. I get some people are like, it's a little weird. And it's like, for one, I didn't ask for this. I wasn't like, and now all of you all get to call me Dad. Like, they carried that one on their own. I think it's kind of endearing because it's not weird. Please don't make it weird.
Speaking of weird, Soap Destroyer asks if you'll say, what's up, strange?
Is that a reference to something?
Sure.
What's up, strange? Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Krennic says, they're hiding Metal Gear in there. I'm assuming talking about Harp.
Yeah. That's funny.
Nomad says, what happens to a toad when struck by lightning?
The same thing that happens to everything else.
Exactly. Oh, happy birthday, Michael. Thank you, Rowan. Appreciate that. Soap says, what do you do for work outside of YouTube?
I assume Soap's talking to me. That is a hilarious profile picture I just noticed. Oh my gosh. I can't focus. Work.
Pickle Soap.
I do Pickle Soap. I'm a college student. I've mentioned that before. Other than that, just YouTube.
He's a YouTuber dork. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
But
if you want to know, Nick and I do oil and gas. So, yes, super lame. But I'm sure you
in Alberta, as we've discussed earlier.
Yes. Not up, but down.
Not up, but down. Yep.
Rowan says, favorite conspiracy theory. Duh. I mean,
Armored Phantom kangaroos.
You've been around since 33 subs, and you don't know that giants are his favorite conspiracy.
I think he was just letting me set up to say the word.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Giants. Yeah, I'll give him that.
Zap says, y'all watch any shows recently? Well,
funny you should ask.
We are the show boys, so yes, we do watch a lot of shows. But we'll save this question for later because that's what we do. Stick Larry says, have you ever scrapped an Iceberg video? If so, what was it on?
So I've heard some creators like they will like get done with a video then not upload it. I couldn't imagine that. I've like quit into research for things. So for example, I'll go ahead and say this here. I started work on a cryptid iceberg that, if I remember right, is 350 terms. The dude who made, well, no, was it 250? It was a big number. It was 3 digits. The dude who made it works at the Museum of Cryptozoology. And he's like a really cool guy. And some of them on, like the majority of cryptids on there I'd never heard of, and he was going to help me out with it. And like my idea was to somehow do all of it in one video. And then I think I researched the first 2 out of like 10 tiers, and I'm like, this is already 3 hours. There is no way. So I told the guy it's going to have to wait, and I'm going to split it up and do it in the future. But I honestly spent like a few days of research and then was like, I can't do this. So yeah.
Nice. Rowan says, Among Us.
Thank you, Rowan. I appreciate it.
Senor Tobias says, in the future, will you make ghost hunting videos like exploring haunted places, etc.?
So 2 videos. One of them, I have got a buddy who has been tormented throughout his life by a creature that we have begun calling the Lady of the Lake. And like, this is an incredibly skeptical man who does not believe in anything. And he, like, this thing literally keeps him up at night. And it's driven him crazy. So I am planning a video with him whenever we get time to go down with a group of guys. Like basically interview him so he can describe what it is, what it does, and then like camping out in the location where he spotted it. So that'll be fun. And then another video I've planned is I live very close to this area that has I can go ahead. I think I've said this before. I live like within a couple hours of the Cumberland Gap, which is the location where Daniel Boone and the settlers crossed over to start the westward expansion. So it is got like, there's been several battles fought there. There's a ton of like old sanitariums and hospices. There's been like, when it comes to ghost stories, everything's haunted like 3 times over. Like, well, yeah, that got haunted when it was a battlefield. Then we built the hospital and it burnt down. So now it's haunted again. And then in the 50s, like a bunch of people died. So there's like 3 different sets of ghosts here. So there's like a ton of history. And there is specifically this lady who does ghost tours who like walks around and talks about like the haunted stuff everywhere. So I'm actually planning to get with her and like film an exploration sort of video. Because like there's a hotel that supposedly like back in the 1850s was like because there's a bunch of Civil War history in the area too, that it was the area was so fought over that for a while the Union had control of it and a while the Confederates would have control of it. So for like 6 months, Union hospital beds would be rolled in. And then for another 6 months, Confederate hospital beds. And it's like they were dying on top of each other, essentially.
Nice.
So like it's supposed to be like a haunted basement that you can hear like screams of patients and stuff. So yeah, I want to like go there and record that and do all that. So yeah.
You're always more than welcome to come investigate my flying Funko Pops.
The 3 videos actually.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so when we were doing our Halloween stuff last October, one of our friends who was on was talking about, he's had a lot of experiences and whatnot. And it was before we did the video version of the podcast. So we're all just sitting here, I'm down here in the basement, all by myself. It's like 11:30 at night. And he's talking about, some experience he had. And like, it's all dark, like in this corner of the basement. And I'm just like, the entire time he's talking, I'm like having to sit like this because like I'm like so scared that something's just going to come out of the darkness and get me. And now my Funko Pops just fly off shelves. So yeah, there's that.
One of the more scared, and we'll keep going to these, but one of the more scared I was while recording was actually for the Lost Tapes video that I did.
Yeah.
So whenever I was reacting to like Lost Tapes, because it was 2 a.m, like there was no one else around, and there was just this tapping I kept hearing at my door. At the window, over and over. And like it was every time it would, I would just like flinch, like I kept feeling it. And I'm also watching like clips of monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at one point I got frustrated and turned, and there was like a hand up against the window. And the window here is 3 stories up with no porch or anything. So a hand is doubly concerning. What it actually was there was a bird that was being a jerk and like had its body pressed up against the window on the ledge. And that's what was making the tapping noise. But when I'm sitting here like watching videos of Wendigos and monsters, and I'm like, what? And it's a 40-foot tall person like pressed against the glass. Yeah. I didn't leave it in the original cut because it wouldn't have made any sense, but I screamed like a girl. Just to have nothing.
That's so awesome. So we have a Ring doorbell at our front door, and then a Ring, another camera and security lights on our back door, like in our backyard. Mainly because we have 2 small girls, and just when they're playing outside to be able to make sure no one's coming and kidnapping them or whatever. But the light on the back door is motion sensor, and I'll just be like laying on the couch late at night watching, whatever show or movie, and the light will just like turn on, and I'm like, not like this, please, not like this.
Not like this.
It's like 12:15 a.m. Why is my light going off? Mind you, my backyard is right up against a big cornfield, so it's just like sign, that movie back in the day when I was, in middle school or high school or however old I was when it came out. I was
cornfield. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Luckily this year they rotate. This year is like soybeans or something. But
have you seen? And I know there's more comments to get to, but have you seen any of like the Skinwalker videos going around?
I've like
sounds creepy
here or there, but I mean,
dude. Like every time I'm like, haha, big, I'm not afraid of what's out there. I see some video of like someone like curled up on the ground making cat noises, and I'm like, I'm never going outside again. Yes. I do not need to interact with the outside world. YouTube is all that I have to have.
And then you tell that AI, you're like, you don't want to know what the wind feels like.
Oh my gosh. I'm not safe anywhere.
Yeah. Krennic says, that's a very strange gatekeeping mindset about the Bible. I'm not religious at all, really, but I still own and sometimes read the Bible and interpret it for myself. I'm assuming he's talking about some of the backlash that you got from other Christians about your...
Yeah. And thank you, Krennic. But, like, that's kind of a sad thing I've noticed as someone growing up in churches. There is a lot of gatekeeping people don't really talk about. And while a lot of it is well-intentioned, of like, you don't want to hurt the cause that you're trying to get across by having someone with bad characteristics give the message, sometimes it also comes off as, I want to play a holier than thou contest to see which one of us is worthy enough to get the message out there. And all that normally happens in those cases is the message doesn't get out there. And it is sad to see a lot of the time, but yeah, it is gatekeeping. It happens a lot, but is what it is.
Rowan says, I found out about your stuff while playing Far Cry 5 and watching Iceberg videos, and they all sucked. So I looked up conspiracy theory Iceberg, and you were the first result, and I loved it.
Oh, thank you very much, Rowan.
There you go. Krennic then says, only weird part about calling Wendy dad is that I'm older than him.
most are, which is doubly weird. Someone in my Discord did that. They were like, can I call you dad? And I'm like, sure. And he goes, I'm 34. I'm like, that's okay.
Hey, what's wrong with being 34? I'm 34 today.
There's nothing wrong, but calling me dad has,
Soap Destroyer says, strange is my name. Well,
Oh, okay. What's up, Strange? All
that
right, I got
makes a lot more sense.
Your first name is Strange.
I mean, well, let's look at the
Whoa.
profile picture here.
All right, fair enough.
Rowan says, besides giants, I'm assuming in terms of what your favorite conspiracy theory is. Ray says, "Oh man, I remember you talking about the cryptid video. I was looking around for that."
It's still gonna happen. It's just gonna. So like right now, I currently have like 2 Iceberg series, like the conspiracy Iceberg, which is wrapping up, and then like the serial killer Iceberg. So once one of those is done, then I can start another like Iceberg series.
Yeah.
But I don't want all my uploads to just be different parts of 3 different icebergs.
They just never complete.
It
just
never
have like 17 iceberg videos.
I will say, I kind of don't want to like let the cat out of the bag on this one because I'm kind of afraid to. But the guy who made the conspiracy Iceberg, like I said, the original was made around 2016, 2017. He made an updated one last year that has 5 more tiers on it. And like I've stared at that thing and like I don't know if I want to tell people about this. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it, but yeah, for right now we're still stopping at 10.
There you go. Senor Tobias says about the ghost hunting, please be safe.
I will try to. It is really funny. Like people who like really believe, and I'm not saying this to like downplay anyone beliefs or whatever, but people who really believe in like the ghost and the supernatural stuff get on me all the time about doing everything wrong. Like so part of it that I actually learned, well, I kind of knew this before, I didn't know the extent of it. It is bad, I guess like bad spirit to say the word Wendigo because you supposedly summon it. And if you use the name for like if you write it, it like collectively over time builds up bad repertoire basically with these spirits. So at this point I'm like dead 14 times.
You're right.
I am going to get like dump trucked by a Wendigo one day, which is maybe the reason I'm so afraid of skinwalkers. Like one day I'm going to walk outside and just
yeah. So I need you, since we're talking about Wendigos and scary stuff, I think it was in your Q&A video, maybe you talked about like that weird deer story, scary thing that happened. And then I think, man, this is I'm like pulling from the recess.
Yeah.
But did you say there was something else that was like maybe another scary story or a more scary story? Would you maybe feel comfortable on elaborating on that at this time, or is that like a future video idea?
It's fine. So the deer, I think I was specifically revolving around the not deer. Also, what you got to understand is I live and have grown up my entire life in like southern Appalachia. Like these are old woods, right? And a lot of the time, I don't want to say this to sound too like pretentious or like, oh, spooky, but a lot of the time weird things happen and you're just supposed to not go after it, right? Like if you talk to any old hunter around these parts, they'll have some story of some, like to anyone else that would be absolutely freaked out, like insanity. And they'll always end the story with, and I just left. I just got out of it. Because what you're supposed to do with a lot of this stuff is just walk away. What happened with the deer? So I was driving down a road coming back to my house one night. It was around 1 a.m. And I turned the corner, and facing away from me on the road was a stag. It was a deer with like, sort of modest antlers. And it was completely frozen facing away from the vehicle. So I turned the corner pretty fast on it and I like slammed the brakes. And by the time the car came to a stop, I was maybe 15, 20 feet from it. And it was just standing there in the headlights. And the steer was not moving. Normally, whenever you turn the corner on a deer, they shoot off the road really quick. This one was not doing that. So I sat there for a second and I'm like, dude, should I honk the horn? Should I do that or whatever? And then without moving any of the rest of its body, its head started to rotate and it turned its head to where it was sideways and I saw the one eye. And then it's really hard to describe, but like it turned its head and then it turned its body to match it. Like its head and its body were moving it wasn't moving the way a deer's supposed to move.
Right.
So it turns itself completely sideways and then it sets like that for a second and then it turns its head directly at me. Now here's what's weird. Deer are herbivores, right? And the way that herbivores are is they have eyes on the either side of their head, so that way they can have a range of motion of predators. So like, for example, a horse or something like that, whenever it looks at you, it actually looks at you from the side because that's where it's got the best angle. If a horse is wanting to stare at you, it does not do it from the forehead forwards because it's got bad vision like that. So the deer turning its head to stare at me like that was not something a deer would ever do. So it stares at me like that, and we are just like locked for what felt like forever. It was probably closer to like 15 seconds. And it's just the middle of the road at night. My car stopped in the middle. It's like this kind of foggy area. And I'm just staring at the forehead of this thing that is acting like a deer when it's not supposed to be, or isn't acting like a deer when it's supposed to be. And then I got cold everywhere at once. It was like something was touching me. It was awful. I felt it just like this feeling run all over me. And then it turns its head back the way to match the rest of its body and then jumps over the road real quick, over the hillside. And I got out of there. And I went home that night and had these incredibly vivid nightmares of it was. So that kind of relates to the other story I talked about that's more freaky. I used to be very into lucid dreaming until I messed up a few times in a row and basically got stuck. And it really weird stuff happens. But actually that night, I had nightmares of what essentially was like antlers and this creature following me that I didn't see again until I messed up with the lucid dreams. And now every time that I have a nightmare, those things start to pop back up, which according to Native American folklore in the area means I've like caught a bad spirit, which is fun. And I'm glad that that's what happened. But yeah, so that's the not deer. There's other, like most hunter, like there's one guy I know who watched a deer beat its head in, like bash its head in on a rock. Things like that you just don't approach. You just leave. Like as soon as that deer got off the road, I didn't get out with the flashlight like, wait, come back, I want to talk to you. But yeah, so a bunch of weird stuff like that is fairly common. Nice. I remember being like very young and like I remember seeing some things that I've like, logically explained through in my head. Like one of the reasons the stairs in the woods is such an interesting concept to me is I remember coming across a door that was placed in front of a staircase whenever I got away from my parents in the woods. And then I wasn't able to find it later when I went looking for it. Now, of course, I would have been like 8 at the time. So you can be like, oh, you're 8. You were dumb. You didn't know how to get back there, which is how I've justified it to myself. Right. But it's still like things like that. I just kind of think back to sometimes. It's part of the reason I'm so interested in it now. So yeah.
Right. The staircase in the woods, those are very interesting for sure.
It's so weird how many people, like, especially around the area I live, have at least similar stories or sightings. Like, I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather told me that there was this brown door he kept seeing. That it would be like just beyond the tree line. And he would be like, I got to get over that thing. And then he'd like turn past a tree and it would like not be there. But it's like as he was moving houses, he would go out hunting and he'd keep seeing that brown door. Huh. Just stuff like that. Really weird. And Like, unlike my grandfather, you're not supposed to run it down and try to open it. It's probably a bad idea. Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable talking about the lucid dream stuff?
I do, if you're comfortable hearing about it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Do you want to hear about that, Nick?
Yeah, I'm always interested in that.
Okay. First of all, let me say, is there like a time you want to kill it? Like if it goes too long, or
It's up to you, man.
all right? Because I don't have a time. I'm good. To be 100% honest, you all are saving me, because as soon as like I'm off here, it's back into coffee and reading about Epstein. So it's like this is a very relaxing break for me.
Nice.
Like the meme of the guy, I think it's from Parks and Rec, I'm not sure, but the meme of the guy with like the strings ran all over the office and he's like freaking out like, on the buzz. That is generally what I'm like most nights. So like spread papers across the table. And I'm like, normally it's because the guy who made the conspiracy Iceberg made it one stupid word and I have to figure out what that means. But yeah. So anyway, lucid dreaming. So for those who don't know, lucid dreaming is whenever you become conscious. The shortest version is you become conscious of yourself within a dream without waking up, and you can therefore manipulate it. A lot of people have the moment where they're like, oh, I'm dreaming, and they wake up. That's not it. Lucid dreaming is when you're like, oh, I'm dreaming, and then you stay in the dream. So then you can figure out how to alter it. So when I was in high school, I'm like, this is really cool. Like that's got to be the most wild thing ever. Because I think I accidentally did it a couple times. And then sure enough, looking it up, there's ways that you can trick yourself into it. So the easiest way is that you can't read while dreaming. The reason for that is because the part of your brain that processes words and diction and all that is the part that's unconscious. Pretty much what you're experiencing, which is the reaction of chemicals and all that as you sleep, has nothing to do with literacy. So the way you do it is throughout the day, while you're awake, you randomly look at stuff like words. Like I remember looking at stop signs and billboards and being like, am I dreaming? Can I read that? You read that in your head and you're like, okay, cool, I'm awake. And what you eventually do is you condition yourself to that way whenever you're in a dream, you do that without thinking about it. And then you're like, why can't I read that? Oh, because I'm dreaming. And then all of a sudden you're conscious and you have control. So that's the way I did it. And I got good enough at it that I didn't even have to check myself anymore. It was every single night I managed to like be conscious while in the stream. So it was awesome for the longest time, right? Because you can make whatever world, you can make whatever scenario you want. You can have theoretical conversations with anyone you want. It's really neat stuff. However, what I didn't realize until later is you're not supposed to like panic. The reason for that being whenever you start to panic and like you activate your body's fight or flight, whenever you're in a realm that's entirely created by like the chemicals of your brain, and then you start to mess with those chemicals, it's a bad move. Because normally what it would be like is I would never try to wake myself up, and then like I would just naturally wake up on my own. I never would like force a wake up. So after doing it for a few months, one night, I can't remember why, but I decided to force a wake up. So I'm like, okay, I want to wake up now. And then nothing happens. And you're like, I want to wake up now. And then you're like, oh no, I'm stuck. And then you start to panic. And then what's really freaky is you start to slowly lose control. And like things start to fall apart as they're happening around you. So like say you've built like a city, right? I know it sounds very Inception, but honestly, that's kind of like how it is. Like you've built up this city, you've built up this stuff around you. And then all of a sudden everything starts fading out to black. And then you're in a new space with new people and you have absolutely no idea what they're doing, but you're perfectly conscious as if you're awake. So now you've just got to watch whatever this is play out in front of you. And it's horrible. So that happened a couple times and I was getting really frustrated with it. And then the whole not deer thing happened. And then I started to have dreams where like during the lucid dream, whenever I would lose, because it wasn't every night I was losing control. It was just enough to make me like keep trying it again. So whenever after I had the Not Deer event, I started seeing this creature in the dreams that it would change its appearance. Most of the time it's very kind of in line with like traditional Wendigo imagery of like this very tall creature. It had sort of a bony figure about it. Its face, I remember, was always contorted a bit differently, but it had the characteristic of like these incredibly sunken in yellow eyes, like bright glowing yellow eyes with these like black dots for pupils. Like sort of who's that? The guy who made The Corpses Bride. What's that guy? Tim Burton. Like very like Tim Burton-esque giant yellow eyes with like these black dots, just very sort of hyper, like this sort of void where its mouth's supposed to be. And these antlers that looked like they just went on forever. Like anytime I look, I would just see like these antlers continuing to grow and grow. And I would just like see glimpses of it, right? Until one night I had a dream. It was a lucid dream, and then I lost control of it. And then everything kind of started to fade to black, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. And then whenever I started to be able to see the area I was in, the ground was like this sort of red rock. It was very alien looking. It was like red rock, and then surrounding me were like these bony trees. It was like these like trees that sort of bent their way up, and they were very like pale, no leaves on them or anything. And then looking up through sort of the overcast of like their branches mixing into each other, the sky was like a deep red. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then I start hearing this noise that the closest thing I can describe it to is, have you ever heard the video of the broken, the broken hurricane siren? It's used now as the audio for Siren Head. Just that kind of, it's like a backwards droning. It sounds like a siren played backwards. It goes from like an echo to like really sharp all at once. It was a noise very similar to that, but it was kind of like it was trying to say something. Like it was kind of like garbled speech almost. So then I started to hear that, and it kept getting louder and louder. And then I turn around, and then that creature, and this is also the first time I'd ever seen it all at once. Like before I'd seen glimpses and stuff. Now it's just standing there, and it's like 30 feet tall. And its antlers are like woven into the trees around it. Like the antlers I can never see are now like the overcast of the trees, and the noise is coming from it. And then, then it like it sort of like jerks itself to the side, and it starts moving in like these very broken like marionette movements, and it starts chasing me. So obviously I run because duh. So I start running, and I just hear that noise, like the garbled droning whatever, over and over again as it keeps getting close. Like it keeps getting closer, then I run a bit harder, and then it keeps going away for what felt like a day. Of course it was a dream, so it was like, one night. But it felt like I just kept running and running from this thing until eventually I got too tired, and I remember I squatted down on the ground. I like curled up in the fetal position, and I put my hands over my ears and like shut my eyes. And like that droning noise kept getting louder, and then it stopped. And then I opened my eyes and took off my ears, and I was sitting curled up in the fetal position like that on my bed. And that was that. I woke up. There's been, so like that was the end. That was like, I am not lucid dreaming ever again. Yeah. A couple times I will catch myself in a lucid dream since. Also, earlier I mentioned like you're not supposed to say I will wake up now. The way you wake yourself up from a lucid dream is you fall over, because like if you fall over, that jolts yourself and then you wake up really quick. So now what happens is I'll like all of a sudden be like, oh, I'm dreaming. And then as soon as I realize I'm dreaming, everything starts to go dark, and I just faceplant. I immediately just hit my head on the floor. I'm not being here. I'm gonna just wake up. The day starts at 3 a.m. today. Not going back to bed. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing. That was pretty
Very
intense
detailed.
story. Hopefully, you don't bash your head on the floor this.
It ties. It's one time I actually did that. I was like, okay, wake up from a lucid dream, and so I fall over, and then I woke up falling out of bed. Like I just threw myself out of bed.
Nice.
It ties in a lot with the lore, and that's one of the reasons that like I use the Wendigo as like my name, Wendigoon, and all that, because a lot of the old legends about the Wendigo is it's a spirit that like haunts you in your dreams and stuff like that, right? So. For me, using the name, not only is it a creepy creature from like Appalachia that I love, but it's also kind of like I don't want to say declaration or anything like that. It's kind of like I understand this is creepy and something I should probably be afraid of, but I'm going to like put my foot down and be like, no, I'm going to use this. So yeah.
Nice. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. I don't enjoy it at all. And it's no joke that whenever I have a lucid dream and wake up now, I'm like, well, just not going back to bed. Time to drink 4 cups of coffee.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So we are starting to creep up there time-wise, and there's a ton of comments, but I have to cut off the comments now, or else we're going to be here all night. But thank you guys so much for throwing your comments out there. We tried to get through as many as we could, and I don't want to keep this poor man from his epic Epstein research for too much longer.
Yeah, just me screaming at the sky at 2 a.m.
Yeah, why?
Waiting for the band to show up.
Yeah, exactly. They're already there. That's
probably.
The thing.
They're being driven by the Wendigo.
Yeah. But before we end, it is tradition whenever we have a guest on to ask them what they're currently watching, because our whole shtick is our main show series is called What's Watching. And, we talk about shows and movies and all the other content in between, such as YouTube videos and things like that. So, what have you been watching?
All right, so been watching. I recently I watched Invincible, all that happened.
Great show.
I really loved it. Yeah, it was fantastic. I'm trying to think of stuff. I watched all of BoJack Horseman, but it's finished now, so I'm not really watching it. On YouTube, I started the comprehensive history of Chris Chan. Wait, are you familiar with that?
No.
Oh, all right. Short version. There is a guy, or now girl, since he's transitioned, but he's transitioned back. There's a lot to it. They have the history of being the most trolled person to ever exist. And to give you an idea of how much lore there is about them, the series, The Comprehensive History of Chris Chan, is on episode 58, I think, and every one is like an hour long.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they're not even I think they're close, but they're not to present day yet.
Wow.
It's been going on for 20 years. So technically I'm always watching that. Just going on forever. The guy who made the series did an excellent job, but man, is it a lot. So yeah, that's that whole rabbit hole. Besides that, I'm trying to think if there's any TV shows. There's a few TV shows that I kind of bowed out of because I just couldn't do it anymore. Like The Walking Dead, for example. I was a massive Walking Dead fan back in the day. Whenever it started, I think I watched the live premiere of episode 1.
Same. When I was so good.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. You know how it goes. I did that with Supernatural. Yeah, like a sensible person. Yeah, I did the same thing with Supernatural. Which funny, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in both of those.
Right.
I love him, but just the show itself. But yeah, I can't really think of a show that I've been watching right now. Me and my girlfriend have started watching like King of the Hill for fun because it's just a fun show.
Right.
But that's not like, oh, duh! I don't know how I forgot this. Attack on Titan.
Hey,
That's
nice.
totally like stepped over. I don't know why I didn't think of that one. Yeah, absolutely love Attack on Titan. Cannot wait for the next episodes. Yeah.
Nice. I have only seen season 1 of Attack on Titan. I'm slowly working my way through it. It was pretty intense that first season. I had to take a break of people screaming at me for
Fair
20
enough.
minutes straight, but I loved what I watched.
So the thing with, and I tell everyone this was season 1, whenever Attack on Titan was first made, the idea, because it was made by the guy who did Death Note, so they knew it was going to be a successful series. So the idea was they signed him on for both a manga and the anime. And they're like, oh, we'll just release both back to back at the same time. And it drove him crazy. So he did the first season of the show and he was unhappy with it because of pacing issues. See, what would happen is he'd be writing in the manga, and every time he'd write, he'd be trying to think how to incorporate it into an anime within like a couple weeks, which is the reason in season 1 there's like entire episodes that are just like one screaming match, because he was trying to give himself room in writing. It was like, oh, just take this conversation and that's the episode. So what he did is he was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to make a product I'm happy with. So he put a pause on the anime until he got like 2 seasons ahead in the manga, and then started back up the anime. So like going from season 1 to season 2, the pacing cleans up a ton. It feels like a much more cohesive story. And like for me, season 2 is when Attack on Titan like becomes what it is now, which is like my favorite currently running show. So yeah.
Nick's a big fan.
That's a good one.
I absolutely love it, dude. Like a lot.
It's the first anime that I've attempted to watch. So I was like, are they all this intense? Like, there's so much yelling.
And it's an ever evolving conspiracy theory too. Like the whole thing is just like one big conspiracy theory. Yeah, it's good.
I also just love the Titans. They just
the
look
Titans are
like
so cool.
Such like dopey people. I love it.
Some of them look ridiculous, and it's so great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anything else, or is that about some? Like,
that's what I mean. I'm always like,
list?
I'm always like watching movies and stuff. Like I rewatched Fight Club the other day. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Nice. I need to do that.
Gosh, it's so good. Fight Club, it holds up today. There's a few cheesy editing effects that are very like early 2000s, but you easily get over it for how well like the story's done and all that. I'm always between rewatching Tarantino movies because I love Tarantino a lot. I'm trying to think what else. Just that YouTube series. Trying to think if there's a new YouTuber I've come across who I'm like a big. Hold up. Let me be nice to someone real quick. There is this YouTuber I've started watching. So I hope that I never get involved in YouTube drama, because I just don't want that in my life. But I really like listening to videos about YouTube drama. Like hearing about all like the Ethan Klein drama or the Keemstar drama.
I know. That's been so fun to listen to.
Oh, it's so great. I absolutely dig it. And like, what's really wild is now I'm talking to people who are involved with drama with them. And it's like, it's a whole nother level, because now rather than watching a video, I'm like, how do you feel about this situation? It's really weird. But this girl who literally all of my search history is John McAfee. Hold on. Let me scroll through that. She made great breakdowns of like people who've been kicked out. Cecil McFly. Her name's Cecil McFly. I've watched like all the Right Opinion videos, Jay Aubrey. She does content very similar to that, just breaking down like these whole spirals that YouTubers have had. Mm-hmm. So I've been watching a bunch of her stuff lately. So yeah.
Nice. You don't even have to think about it, dude. Nick, bro, have you finished up anything lately?
Of late, I mean, really just kind of staying current on like the currently running things. Loki,
Dave,
Bad
like
Batch, Dave started Dave up last night. There's a new episode out tonight, I believe, the third one there.
Yep.
So Dave,
Is
really
season
just
2 good?
I like season 1 better so far.
Okay.
Season
The
2
first
here
episode
is
started off pretty like
They're not-
serious.
yeah, they're
kind
not
of.
funny. They're kind of like anxiety driven and like depressing.
Yeah, that's a
opposite of
good
the first season.
That's a great description of episode 1.
Yeah, it was like giving me
So-
anxiety mostly.
I don't mean to like derail this at all, and I also don't mean to like try to start drama immediately after saying I don't like drama. But I'm gonna punch way up straight at Lil Dicky. So my girlfriend was the hugest Lil Dicky fan forever, right?
Mhm.
Like she's the one who put me on it whenever we started dating. She liked his stuff, and she hates the TV show because he was announcing that he was going to have a new album or whatever. And then he's like canceling the album for mental health reasons. And then it actually turns out it's because he's starting a TV show. So she got furious at that. And then watching the show, I remember during season 1, she was like, this isn't even going to be funny. He's going to use this as a showboat, and then it's going to become a whole depressing drama about his life. And then so you saying that just now.
It's also hilarious about the content that season 2 has gone down about that whole story. And once you start season 2, it'll click and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about.
She's going to be so mad. Oh no.
What else are you keeping up with?
I think that's about the gist of it. I feel like I need to watch some movies. I feel like I'm gearing up to rewatch movies. I might rewatch Fight Club. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So good.
You put that in my mind, so now I'm going to rewatch that.
I also rewatched they are both Anderson movies. There Will Be Blood and The Master, which if you haven't seen The Master is like there's a few things that I've thought about making videos on, but I don't think I can do it justice. The Master's one of them. You want to talk, it's by P.T. Anderson, and it's starring Joaquin Phoenix and the guy who passed away. It's 3 words. I feel horrible. He played Capote. Anyway, the blonde guy. It's him and Joaquin Phoenix. Okay, hold on.
That's right. I'm IMDbing it while you're talking.
Thank you so much. All right, yeah, it's called The Master. I'm going to feel so bad if I just called him the blonde guy.
A small actor named Philip Seymour
That's
Hoffman,
it.
I believe you're talking about.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Man, I feel bad about that one. Anyway, the premise of the movie is that Joaquin Phoenix is like pretty much a loser, just down on his luck, isn't really going anywhere in life. And then he meets a cult leader played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then starts to like become a devoted member of this guy's cult. And like, honestly, it was the movie that made me go, okay, I understand cults now. Like, it went from like, yeah, those guys are absolutely crazy, what weirdos or whatever. And then I watched that movie and was like, yep, I get it. I'm not judging them anymore. Yeah. Like, it's a great movie. So I highly recommend that one. Yeah.
I'll have to put that on the list then. Yeah, I have, what am I? 2 episodes away, maybe 3 episodes away from wrapping up season 1 of The Flight Attendant on HBO Max, which I don't like love it, but like it's also not, it's like above good. Like it's not average.
Mike can't
It's
actually
better
admit
than
things are
good.
bad. It's hard for him
He
to
is
admit
like-
things are
He
bad.
is fighting himself, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not good,
Oh,
Mike. Just say it.
No. It's
Not-
interesting. It's one of those like whodunit type shows, but I think it does it in an entertaining way. So I've been enjoying it. I mean, hey, I'm already this far. Gotta finish, right?
That is the worst mentality. That's what kept me watching The Walking Dead for 12 seasons.
Yeah, at least this one, there's light at the end of the tunnel because they only have one season out so far. So,
okay. All right.
if I only get,
continue wasting your time.
Yeah, I can pound out these last 2 episodes.
Let me ask for advice, and I think I know what the answer is going to be. I have never watched Breaking Bad. But have you guys not watched it either? Wow,
It's a great show. You guys are both like,
okay,
come on.
All right. I see. All right, gotcha. So like everyone universally is like, you can't have an opinion until you watch Breaking Bad about anything. I'll be talking about like Tarantino, and they're like, okay, but did you watch Breaking Bad? Like everyone loves that show so much. And like I know it's not a huge show. It's what, 4 or 5 seasons?
I believe 5.
Yeah.
5.
So like I'm probably going to jump down that rabbit hole sooner than later because I understand it's good. Everyone talks about how good it is. So yeah.
Hopefully they I don't think this would be the case, but hopefully they didn't like talk it up too much. So you go in and like, this is like, what is the hubbub about? But, I think it'll live up to all the hype. I enjoyed it a lot. I've actually been thinking about going back and rewatching it. But yeah, Nick, come on, dude.
I watched like 3 episodes. It didn't click. Even worse.
Whoa.
Even worse.
Nick, that was like a hard line approach. I have never seen someone who's like, I watched Breaking Bad, didn't like it. What a legend.
It didn't even click enough to like form an opinion. Like I have no feelings on it.
That's why you guys need to tune into Show Boys, because we come with the hot takes over here, I guess.
Nick is an absolute monster for that one.
Yeah.
I've never even seen the show, and I know that was brutal.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to give it another run. I don't know.
Have you seen that clip from Family Guy where he's like, I didn't care for The Godfather?
Yeah.
That's what you just did.
Yeah.
It's literally Nick. Yeah, actual footage of Nick.
Didn't like it. Never got it. Yeah.
Didn't click. Not sure. Everyone else likes it. Good for them.
I respect you for that. My gosh, man.
All right. Well, we're going to have to call it a night. We're nearing in on 3 hours, which another record-setting episode for us. 2 weeks in a row coming at you with bangers. But thank you so much again, Wendigoon, for coming on, chatting with us. Super fun. It was a blast. It was really cool to get to learn some insight behind the channel and the man himself. And hopefully you had a good time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and chiming in the comments. You're basically, super famous. So it's not like you really need to plug much, but is there anything you would like to plug before we jump off here?
For one, I'd like to say thank you so much. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. Anytime you all would want to have me back, I'd be down. This was really fun, and I enjoyed it. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about all that.
Oh yeah, you bet, for sure.
But thank you all so much. I don't want to plug myself, but if I could, however, plug my boy Scrabble that I mentioned a couple of times early on.
Okay.
So the channel, it's just called Scrabble. It's SCRABBL. That's it. It's like a misspelled version of the word Scrabble. That's kind of like the joke to it. But
it's good for SEOs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the channel's just Scrabble. I did a video with him earlier on. This dude makes killer content. He did one over biblically accurate angels. He did one over like the thought experiment Iceberg, which is like weird Rocco's Basculus stuff. And it's like highly edited videos. He makes great content, and he gets like a couple thousand views a video. And like any chance I can, I shout out his channel because he's not only a great guy, but he makes great videos. So if you don't get anything out of this, go subscribe and watch Scrabble's videos. He's a great dude. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think I after watching, I believe, your childhood trauma video or the lost tapes, I forget which one, but you had mentioned his childhood trauma video maybe, or a video that was similar.
I think so. I did the childhood trauma, and then he did one. So I think I mentioned that in the Lost Tapes video.
Okay, yeah. I ended up checking out that video, and yeah, you're right. It is very good.
He's a fantastic YouTuber. He
Yeah.
needs more attention. So yeah.
All right, guys, you heard it there. Go subscribe to Scrabble, and I'll plug Wendigoon since he won't do it himself. Go subscribe to this man. Help him get to 500,000 subscribers. That'd be nuts.
1 million.
Yes, you're on your way, man.
Numbers with zeros on them. Wow.
Just don't forget us once you get to the top, man.
You guys are forever the first. So thank you for that.
There you go. No problem. Glad we
Part 1 of 2.
Yes. But while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Discord so you can win this super awesome Moff Gideon Funko Pop and T-shirt combo. Thank you again so much for tuning in tonight and chiming in the comments like we said. We have another Bad Batch Companion Series Sunday night, Nick, yes?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay, so they'll be right here on our YouTube channel 9 p.m. going over the latest episode of the Bad Batch. And yeah, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, we will see you. Good night.